Tuesday, the 27th day of March, 2018. I'm your host, Alex Jones. And it is so incredible to actually follow the news, to follow the globalists, to follow their policies, to follow their agenda, and then to watch them deny world government or deny the attack on the family or deny the attack on Christianity or deny the attack on Buddhists that, quite frankly, is going on worldwide as well. Anything that isn't bloodthirsty and hateful, anything that's about communities working together, they're trying to get rid of. They are, by definition, evil people. And now the Supreme Court justice comes out and calls for the repeal of the Second Amendment on the heels of the New York Times and the Washington Post and USA Today and CNBC and MSNBC and CNN having their hosts say it's time to take the guns. And then we've got all the different gun grabbers at the different events saying that, oh, give us an inch, we'll take it a mile. We're going to take it all. And we're going to kill gun owners that don't turn them in. We'll take your slogan from Charlton Heston, from my cold, dead hand. And we will carry it out against you. And you know what? We are going to ban the words mother and father. Canada just said do not use the word mother in government documents. Purdue, Harvard, Yale. First they ban Halloween parties because his costume might be offensive. Think about that in America. Then they ban, in the English departments, saying mankind. I mean, when you look at what a cult this is and how they believe they've got the colleges and high schools fully under their control, it makes your head spin. At least it makes mine. Remember all the crazy headlines. In fact, Media Matters had a headline yesterday that I'm insane because I think they want to overthrow the Second Amendment and overthrow the Constitution. So they're simultaneously going, Jones is insane, and says the March for Our Lives, run by the left, that's pro-abortion, total oxymoron. Jones says they want the guns. No one wants your guns except 5,000 newspaper covers today. Look at it. Infowars.com. We got it linked up there. Yeah, that's an article from March 4th. The Click News today, you'll see the Media Matters article from yesterday that says Jones claims the March for Our Lives is about overthrowing the Bill of Rights and Constitution. That's my quotes in there. Why? Just repealing it doesn't do anything but overthrow it. But Jones is a conspiracy theorist. He says that we want your guns, which we do, but you're still insane if you say we do. So, former Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens repeal the Second Amendment. That's the Supreme Court saying repeal the Second Amendment. That's how they operate. That's how stupid they think you are. That's the type of moron they think you are. That they're coming for your guns. They say they want your guns. It's the former Supreme Court justice saying they want the guns. 4 of the 9 have already voted to repeal the Second Amendment before, basically. And now they're going to try to have this new mind control game where they try to ban them, but then say you're insane, they're not. It's all coming up on the other side of this quick break. Infowars.com, newswar.com. Those are the sites they're trying to shut down. Infowars.com and newswars.com. That's why it's critical to get those articles out and override their AI. Ladies and gentlemen, we are broadcasting worldwide. Thank you so much for joining us. Wow, we have got former Supreme Court justice coming out and saying repeal the Second Amendment just outright. That's coming up in the next segment. We've got the youth marchers, even though sociologists say that only 10% of those marching are actually youth. They're mainly the Department of Education marchers. That's the Women's March. That's the anti-gun march. It's mainly professors and then the high school and elementary school teachers, part of the unions on record. They're calling for the repeal of the Second Amendment after denying it for so long. So that's coming up. But I want to air two special reports back-to-back right now. And that is Hollywood promotes gun violence, yet bans gun safety. And then I've got another report that I want to just get out of the way because they're so important. Why are the elites sneaking into their bunkers? Why more and more are they evacuating to New Zealand? And a very powerful report by Paul Joseph Watson reacting to mean people, because now the left bans anybody online that they claim hurts their feelings or disagrees with them, but then they more and more are getting so incredibly in your face and so incredibly hateful. In fact, let's hear Paul Watson's report first, because it ties into all this bullying and Madonna saying she wants to blow up the White House and the hashtag hunt Republicans, and David Hogg saying we're all shaking in our boots as he tries to take one of our basic constitutional rights. But remember, they've been denying more and more that they are coming for our guns and saying we're insane. But paradoxically, as they intensify saying no one wants your guns, they're saying we're going to ban your guns. Completely just take all your guns. So just amazing hissy fit being thrown by the establishment as they attempt to disarm the people. So we're going to go to Paul Joseph Watson's report right now.
I've seen a lot of humorous YouTube videos in which celebrities and politicians read mean comments.
I'm all right with the president wearing jeans. I'm not all right with the president wearing those jeans.
Why are you such a YouTuber?
Dear God, give us back Tupac and we'll give you Justin Bieber.
Who are you anyway? And by the way, where do you buy the shoe polish you wear in your hair?
So in the spirit of self-deprecating comedy, I thought I'd give you a sampling of the kind of funny put-downs and witty japes that I tend to receive.
Why you talk about Islam like that? I will slaughter your bloodline and leave you alive to suffer for what you do. You are bad men, and I will send you to Allah so that he may banish you to hellfire for ignorance. I will kill you. I will cut head from your shoulders and make you me. Okay, die, pig.
Oh, you guys and your pithy retorts. Wait a sec. How am I going to you without a head?
I am going to behead you in the name of Islam, mother. Your head will roll from your lifeless body. I will burn down your house and f***ing your wife as a trophy after you lose your head.
I don't have a wife.
I am going to f***ing kill you if you keep talking Islam. I'll kill you for your words. No cops. Border authorities won't be able to do because you know what? I went across there once and your stupid cops did not stop me whatsoever when I went there for free white that I could not resist.
Jesus Christ, I bet UK border authorities are going to be keen to follow up on this. Or maybe they're too busy.
It's time to hashtag kill PJW and answer to the problem gang rape, the wife of the man who insults Islam and brings dishonor to all Muslims. Hashtag kill PJW.
Don't care, virgin.
How dare you say Islam is not religion of peace?
Okay, so I'm willing to hear you out. How are you going to prove to me Islam is a religion of peace?
I hack you to bits and little pieces.
Okay, so you're going to prove Islam is a religion of peace by hacking me to pieces.
It's a religion of peace. There's a piecey over there, there's a piecey over there.
I hack you to bits and little pieces.
People ask me if I report any of this to the police. Do you see any spicy memes in there? No. So why would I waste the time when they obviously have far more important things to deal with?
The only thing PJW is qualified to give an opinion on is whether it's a good idea to have a photoshopped to death profile picture in order to create the impression of being a cool and edgy individual.
Yeah, you're lecturing me about the accuracy of my profile pic, when yours is literally a cartoon of a fictional child from a video game. Glass houses and all that.
Not surprised about him, but surprised InfoWars has staff thought it was Jones and PJW in his mum's basement.
Got me there. Got me there. Oh no, I actually bought the house in which my parents live, so technically, my mum lives in my basement.
You're a Nazi. I'm coming to England to kill you. I already know where you like, and I'm going to kill you. Live. Still coming, yo, kill you.
A little tip for you. If you're going to send me death threats, probably not a great idea to leave your name, place of work, and address in the message. Something to remember for next time. You utter dick. I'm going to make it my purpose in life to hit you as often as I can, as hard as I can. Well, given that it's now a year since you said this and you've done, all, looks like that life purpose didn't quite pan out, did it?
Freedom of speech does not mean you can make fun of someone's religion, you idiot.
Yes, that's exactly what it means, herp derp.
No, it's not. Freedom of speech means that you have the right to say that you don't like something or someone. What you did is just being a stupid who deserves to die with a bone stuck in your throat.
Right, so criticizing a religion as part of freedom of speech, that's a no-no. But wishing violent death upon someone, that's just fine.
My favourite thing about PJW is how he thinks standing in front of a map makes him look more authoritative when really it makes him look like a geography teacher in the middle of a midlife crisis.
Everybody hurts sometimes.
My favourite thing about you is how you're such a pussy. You daren't even tag me in the insult and then you hide behind a block. Also, it's difficult to tell whether your midlife crisis has happened yet because your face looks like some kind of weird elderly teenager. Every time I see a PJW tweet, I read it out in my head in his stupid, exaggerated voice. Well, imagine my shock, another leftist has been triggered to the point of butt hurt. Let that sink in. My idea of hell is PJW saying soy boy in all manner of different voices for eternity. Soy boys.
Soy boys, soy boys, soy boys, soy boys, soy boys, soy boys.
PJW has stolen many memes. Why aren't the police doing something about it? He's a monster. No. I'm the NASA of memes. You might build the rocket ship, but I send it into space. Case in point, that soy boy meme didn't explode until I made a video about it. Here's a Google Trends graph to prove it. Once again, destroyed by facts and logic. Lol, you guys remember when the leaders of the skeptic community would have destroyed Prison Planet instead of becoming best buddies with them? Oh, it's the Friends Police. I'm sorry, I wasn't aware that to meet someone once, get drunk and take a selfie with them, you had to sign a contract beforehand confirming that you share every single one of their political beliefs. Isn't PJW gay? Not as gay as your mom.
By the way, there's an article up on Infowars.com right now where mainline journalists and mainline Democrats are coming out and saying you can't tweet an image of Richard Pryor or a video gif of Chris Rock or anything if you're white because that is digital blackface and cultural appropriation and is racist. So folks have responded in kind with some pretty funny stuff. But the left wants to regulate all speech, all thought. They are the ultimate cult of moronic idiocy. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot deny the symbolism, the iconography of the anti-gun march funded by the Democratic Party and George Soros and controlled by the Women's March. It was very fascist. It was women with shaved heads in paramilitary outfits. It was young men with armbands raising their fist in the sky saying the establishment fears us. And it was a basic call to have one of the bedrock rights of this country repealed. And so I am very upset, very angry, so angry I can hardly be on air today because we now know the true evil we're facing and we see how it's organized and how it's a fraud. How dare another Democrat blue spot, cancer spot city and Coward County stand down for at least 10 minutes and let the shooting take place and then let them turn around when the police department dozens of times and the sheriff's department was supposed to arrest this guy and when he was known to be mentally ill and telling everybody, I'm going to be a mass shooter, I'm going to kill you. And then his mother dies and he's in foster care. And then he's allowed to kill. And then the media turns it around and blames all gun owners and collectively tries to bully us into submission to relinquish our rights like slaves have done in Chicago, New York, D.C., and other Democrat-controlled areas. And every time there's a mass shooting, it's one of their areas, and they stand down, and they let the carnage happen, and the media covers it up and gives support to the cowardly police that stand down. It's incredible. And then we, collectively, as gun owners, as people that aren't domesticated, who are Americans with that most basic of rights of self-defense, we sit here and we take a bunch of snot-nosed, wannabe actors from the acting departments of schools across the country, organized by the Democratic Party and by the National Department of Education and by their unions, because that's who they are at these marches, to march out with their organized, mass-produced signs and their talking points to call for the repeal of the Second Amendment. It is incredible. So if you're a radio listener, I'll break it down, but for TV listeners and TV viewers, you'll be able to see it. One of our crew, Darren McBreen, put together a clip with the background of Hitler speaking, or screeching, ranting, to the images of the March for Our Lives rally this weekend in D.C. And if you look at the iconography, the symbols, the armbands, all of it, it's completely clear that it's authoritarian. The left is now race-based, identity-based. So are the Nazis. They had a major youth movement that helped take them to power, just as Mao did with his youth brigades. I would say they're more akin to Mao's youth brigades than they even are to Hitler. But it's definitely in that vein, and that's what it is. And now we have John Paul Stevens saying, repeal the Second Amendment. And it's all over the news, and he's written an op-ed piece that has appeared in USA Today, the New York Times, you name it, it's everywhere. And he says, for our children and for civic engagement, it's time to get rid of the right to keep and bear arms, period. Take them all, Mr. and Mrs. America. Turn them all in. Remember the decades they denied that was their goal. But the same globalist from Australia to the UK, from Mexico to Brazil, have done the exact same thing. It always starts saying, we don't want your guns, we don't want your guns, just let us register them, just let us restrict semi-auto, just let us ban people until 21 having them, and then they take it all. And every time there's another shooting, because there'll always be killings, there'll always be stabbings, there's always going to be evil people, as long as there's free will. Doesn't matter if mass crime's down 60-something% since 92, the facts don't matter. They will say, never again. And then there's another killing, and they go, never again. How about never again the sheriff's department stand down? Or the school resource officer hide? Or never again, we don't allow select trained teachers to be armed, so these wouldn't be the victim disarmament centers where psychos go to kill because the media advertises. Like the Golden Arches, you come here to get a hamburger. Well, public schools are big advertisements that you come here to kill a bunch of defenseless people that are taught to stick their head between their knees, stick their heads between their legs like ostriches, while another Prozac head crazy person squeezes bullets into their damn heads. We are up against an exact formula, an exact program of control. And they're not just going after the second. They're trying to ban everybody that's defending the second on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. They're calling for us to be banned and saying that grown adults cannot respond to other grown adults, high school seniors, up there on the stage telling us it's our fault and that old people are bad and that guns are bad and that they're the future and they're going to take all of our rights and take our children's rights, and then we can't even criticize these little PR stuntmen and women. So it's on, folks. They're coming for all your rights globally. This is it, and people better get aggressive and they better get active or you're going to lose it all. Because Trump getting elected just woke the globalist up to accelerate their plan and their whole timetable. So here's Darren McBreen's piece with the truly frightening historical iconography that you cannot deny in these parallels of this youth march. Authoritarianism is always about youth marches. Here we go.
Meine Zeit verwendet habe im Dienste meines Volkes. Gib du jetzt eine Stimme ab, wenn ja, dass ich gearbeitet habe, Jahren für dich eingesetzt habe, dass ich anständig meine Zeit, du jetzt eine Stimme ab, höre mich ein, so wie ich für dich eingesetzt bin.
We can also to show the sign saying ban the guns. And I want to be clear. I'm not saying David Hogg's a Nazi. I'm not saying any of them are. I'm saying the ideology of the left that's identity-based is how the Nazis were based. And I'm saying their move to only allow select groups to have weapons is a Nazi-based system or an authoritarian-based system. And big youth marches and emotion and manipulating the youth was the staple of the communist, the fascist, the Nazis, you name it, across the political spectrum. And that's where you see these dangerous revolutions coming from, like the one we see that's brought Venezuela and other areas to its collective knees, is these exact same type of dangerous youth movements. And if you study the college movements and high school movements today in the United States, they're not Nazi-based. They are Mao Youth Brigade Red Guard based. Look them up in any town, any city that has a college or a large high school base. You will have the chapters in your area. We know them as Antifa, but when they take the mask off, they're communist. And that's who they are, and they're George Soros funded with full-page ads in the New York Times saying, we're going to overthrow Trump, overthrow capitalism, overthrow America, and take the guns. That's their plan. We'll be back with critical intel. Please spread the live links and tell folks about the local station or TV station you're watching or listening to us on. It's critical. Well, former Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens has joined a chorus of other globalists calling for the repeal of the Second Amendment and nationwide gun confiscation. We've got his editorial from the New York Times linked up on Infowars.com. And I knew a few months ago when they started admitting they want to just outright ban guns, that was the new talking point. Because before it was only in their internal documents. Handgun Control Incorporated, Violence Policy Center, the Brady Center, Bloomberg. Now it's out in the open. And many of the signs at the March to Enslave America, funded by George Soros, said we're going to confiscate your guns. And now we've got politicians saying we're going to take your guns. That's because the left's always authoritarian worldwide. Now they are in a position they believe to make their move. And you give them an inch, they take it a mile. Here's Ms. Tarr.
There are so very many things, so many steps to take. Like right now, sign our petition. It takes 2 seconds, and it matters. We will take the big, and we will take the small, but we will keep fighting. When they give us that inch, that bump stock ban, we will take a mile. We are not here for breadcrumbs. We are here for real change.
Well, let me call BS, since you guys all have your little pins you wear that say that. You don't speak for the majority of young people in this country. You don't speak for the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, our veterans. You don't speak for me. And out of 3,000 students, they ignored the libertarians, the conservatives, the victims. They wouldn't let them get on the news. That's all come out. And so you misrepresented us. And you misrepresented the country. And now Hollywood and the big media is up there force-feeding you to create this form of guilt when it's the blue cities and counties where you have the mass shootings, where you have the sheriff's department stand-downs. And it's because it's their culture of cowardice. It's their culture of Chicago and New York and D.C., where the police are more apt to be corrupt, where the system is leftist, where they only care about themselves, where they know there's disarmed victims. And you hate flyover country, you hate Christians, you hate gun owners, you hate people that can skin a buck and run a trot line because you're already the domesticated zombies. And there's a sociologist report we're going to get to in a moment. It's up on Infowars.com. Even MSNBC admits only 10% of those marching were 18 or younger. But they always use children. Like they said, oh, Obama's letting migrants in that are children. Turned out 17% were under the age of 21. Just like every day I hear about a woman being knifed to death at the Eiffel Tower, knifed to death in Berlin, or knifed to death in Sweden. Women gang raped and then murdered. And it always says a group of young teenagers, 13, 15, and 16, they're always 5, 6 years older than they say because they call 25-year-old men coming in children. And then they have children's shows, reality shows, where a 14-year-old's dating her boyfriend that's 18 who's Syrian, and it turns out he's 25. And then they teach them Sharia law on German television. Sociologists, less than 10% of March for Lives participants were children. But you criticize it, oh, you're bullying victims. Well, what about people being victims of gun control worldwide when only the state has the guns? We're at that crossroads. It's here. Before I get to the sociologist clip, NBC's Alexander urges MSNBC viewers to sign promise to vote anti-gun. Or again, the next time another Prozac head, who the police were supposed to arrest more than 20 times, who was adjudicated to not be able to own guns, whose mother had just died, who was in all these different government custodies on multiple government-issued drugs, told everybody he was going to be a mass shooter. He shows up. All this happens. And then CNN has videos removed. They get involved in my First Amendment and have videos removed of witnesses we had on and other videos on local news of people saying there was a police stand down. But they didn't say, oh, we took Alex Jones's videos down and tried to ban his channel and froze his channel for a week because he showed people saying there was a stand down. Because remember, that was the first week. You weren't supposed to know that. They were getting the narrative going. No, they misrepresented and said that I said nobody died. Or that Hogg was a crisis actor and was 24 years old. I didn't say that. I said he was in the art department. He was in the acting department. And the four they chose were, because they're anti-gun PR thespians who can basically go out with their talking points, which they admit they now put out. Private jets, the buses, all of it, from the day after the Women's March took control of it. And the reason I'm penalized and the reason they want to block us is because we're telling the truth and they want to organize the youth and not have a talking point to counter this, to tell adults, go to your PTA, organize your own right to self-defense marches, your own marches to arm the teachers, have your own narrative, but you've got to be the leader. We don't have private jets or hundreds of millions for buses. We don't have that. We have you, but you're going to have to do it. I was in the car this weekend with 6 girls, 5 of them my oldest daughter's friends. And we took them down to Six Flags, and they were all as well-spoken as I am. Their dads, their moms are well-spoken. They all talked about how they wanted to do a walkout, how they wanted to stand up, how they get bullied by the teachers and people saying you've got to be anti-gun, going to a major high school here in Austin, Texas. And I said, you need to have your own walkout. You need to organize it. 2 of the girls are the leaders, even though they're only freshmen. They're already the most popular girls in the school. I mean, you think these kids are well-spoken? You think you ought to see these 2 young ladies, 14 and 13. And their parents are super smart. They look like supermodels. They would destroy them. Right there in my car was dynamite to the globalist. But conservatives and Christians don't do that. I think I'm going to talk to their parents. Because I've got to do it by example. I'd say I'd do it with my older daughter. She'd like to do it, but I'd get crosswise with my ex-wife. But when you've got 2 parents that are together and their child wants to go public, they deserve to. And those girls, I wasn't prompting them. I was sitting there listening to my own music and stuff while they were, but I started listening to them, and they were hungry to tell the truth. They were hungry to take action. They were hungry, and they had all the answers, and they were incredibly well-spoken and well-dressed and good-looking and smart. And they weren't scripted. They weren't funded by George Soros. They were red-blooded Texans. So let's go ahead and play a clip of NBC trying to organize. Here it is.
It was hard not to be moved by their stories, by those moments this weekend. Nearly 5,000 people registered to vote Saturday. That's according to Head Count, a nonpartisan group at the marches.
Oh, nonpartisan.
There's also a push called
Pause right there.
Promise.
Oh, MSNBC's nonpartisan, and this is a nonpartisan group at an anti-gun rally funded by Soros. Oh, it's nonpartisan, by the way, when they're organizing to take our guns. Here it is.
It's a promise to kids that encourages voters to sign a contract vowing to vote for candidates who, as they describe it, put child safety ahead of guns. I'm joined now by 2 of the students who started Parents Promise to Kids, Adam Buchwald and Zach Hibschman. They are both juniors at Stoneman Douglas. I'm also joined by English and journalism teacher at Stoneman Douglas.
Where are all the young people that are anti-victim disarmament? Where are all them? Oh, they don't get on any of these channels. They just show you one thing. a bunch of bandwagon folks, like people that were on the Lance Armstrong bandwagon. At least that was for sports. This is just as synthetic. Let's continue.
She was in D.C. this weekend for the march.
We just introduced this wonderful movement called Parents Promise to Kids. This is a contract that we're asking every parent and grandparent in the nation to promise their children that they will vote for ethical legislators.
And pause again. Let us bully our parents and grandparents into signing this and signing away our future and our rights, because George Soros and the media use us as kept slaves in these schools and brainwash us, and are now deploying us as an information warfare weapon against the Second Amendment to repeal it. Ladies and gentlemen, I was just watching during the break Fox News, and former Governor Bill Richardson was on there, and they had on screen the caption. We're trying to back it up and find it so I can show TV viewers and radio listeners right now. And it said, Facebook is not a social media network. It is a data mining operation. Well, that's what I've been saying for 10 years since it started. That's what it is. And it sells data to thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of companies. So it's just incredible that we've gotten to this point, and now it's coming out. Yeah, there it is on screen. Largest data mining operation in existence. And the fact that they went after Cambridge Analytica, which is a big player, but tiny compared to the aggregate, was opening Pandora's box. Or I used the analogy a week and a half ago of the Christmas sweater, where you grab the one string and it makes the whole thing come undone. I think we've all, like when we were a kid, had a sweater before we knew to, snip it off with scissors, and we would start pulling on the string, and pretty soon there'd be a huge hole, and Mom would have to patch it. I remember back in the old days, my mom still sewed. And kids would make fun of me sometimes with a sweater that had like a patch in it, but I thought that was cool. Of course, nowadays that's trendy, but I'm digressing, ladies and gentlemen. And they're finding out that the company worked for hundreds of governments, just like I said, and that most of it was anti-Russian or anti-conservative, because the globalists have the money and they're fighting nationalist and populist. So that's coming up in the next hour as well. Jack Posobiec's going to be joining us. There's so much to get into, but Facebook is now in trouble for favoring the Obama and the Hillary campaign, and they're saying it's pretty much a clear violation of federal law and the Federal Elections Commission, Fox News is reporting. So see what they did. See what they did. It's amazing. And, of course, it turns out that most of what Cambridge Analytica did was anti-Trump, because they would take money from anybody. They were taking money for Trump. They were taking money against Trump. There's a good comic cartoon on Infowars.com that shows the media pointing at Obama and his data mining and saying, genius, look how smart he is. But then Trump does it. Oh, my God, he's criminal. He's evil. Well, the truth is what Trump did was not illegal. It was public data mining to reach out to constituents and figure out who they were and mobilize them. What Obama did was full control of Facebook, Twitter, and Google to go into your Droid phones, to get your databases, to fix polls, to give the questions to CNN beforehand. I mean, it's incredible. And see, that's how they could do fake online polls, too, is they could target demographics or target websites where they knew they'd get a certain response, have the online polls pop up, knowing the demographic that's on there, even live time. Just like you can see on Google, a restaurant, when its peak time is, how many people are there right now. How does it know that? Because the phones are tracking people live time inside the restaurant. Well, it's way more sophisticated than that. So I told you the left was insane going after trying to discipline Facebook to not let conservatives have access to data mining, when all they did was expose the entire golden goose. Now, I want to get to what I was mentioning earlier, even MSNBC admitting that with their demographer, with their sociologist on there, that less than 10% of the people there were children at the March to Enslave the American People rally brought to you by George Soros and the globalists. I mean, that's who publicly funded it. Just a month ago, I'd say that I'd be banned online, because they were getting it organized then and didn't want you to know it was synthetic. Private jets, private buses, scripting everything from day two. BuzzFeed later wrote the definitive article They normally lie, but they wrote a big article bragging about how the Democrats took it over day 2. The March for Women, which is wholly owned by Soros. It's the same women and same Hollywood stars behind the young adults like Hogg and the other 3 of the 4 horsemen. Now, let me stop right there. We need to fund this operation, ladies and gentlemen, before I get to that clip. And I make it really easy. We went out and looked at what the top nootropics or brain pills are that are healthy for energy, stamina, mental clarity, you name it. And we created a stronger formula than some of the best-selling formulas out there. It's very simple. We went out and looked at what is the top, what is the best. We'll just put even more product in, we'll make it better. Leading competitors put $2 a product in it, sell it for $60. We put 10 products, $10 in it, and sell it for $30, $40, depending on how what the price is at the time. It's $19.95 right now. And you add our advertising, our expenses, you name it, we're making like $5 on this. Nobody brings you a premium supplement with 25% profit in it. Nobody. The average competitor has 7 times markup. So you get an incredible top-of-the-line nootropic for $19.95. Believe me, we're selling it for $35 on average. We need that $15, $20 we make to fund this operation in the face of the globals, the rest of it. But I'm doing this because we got a ton of it coming in 2 weeks. I want to sell it all out before the big supply comes in. And I want people that haven't tried Brain Force to try it and find out why. It's got 6,000 plus 5-star reviews, a 92% review rate. Our average is 98, but the globalists go in their minions and try to vote us down on power reviews and stuff. But the point is that nobody's got a nootropic at 92%. It's amazing. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com. And there is a challenge I'm running. The Real Red Pill sold out the first month we got it. We got another big shipment in. But people say, yeah, I take it and don't feel it for 4 or 5 days. Exactly. It doesn't have classic stimulants in it. It's got pregnenolone that is the base precursor hormone, totally legal, seen as safe. But they were giving people in the 20s for arthritis. By the time you get 20, 30 years old, the level of pregnenolone in your body naturally goes way down. Without it, your body can't make all of the other key hormones and the stuff from the endocrine system. That's what it does. So pregnenolone as a base, then key minerals, key amino acids, and key vitamins that are used in the upload of pregnenolone and the production of hormones in the body. So this isn't going out and taking hormone mimickers. That can cause some issues, obviously. But just consult your physician, do your own research. This is pregnenolone with everything it needs to be uploaded and used and metabolized by the body. It's the Real Red Pill. And people are going crazy on it. I mean, it is amazing. So, pregnenolone and the rest of it's for the brain and the body. And so that is the Fusion Pack, ladies and gentlemen. And we've got a challenge going. Brain Force Plus and Real Red Pill Mind and Body Challenge Pack. 50% off when you get them together and free shipping. This is a new offer this morning. Brain Force Plus and Real Red Pill Mind and Body Challenge Pack, 50% off in store for a limited time. These two go together like a horse and carriage. It takes 5 to 7 days on average, from my experience, other people's experience, to see what the Real Red Pill does. Brain Force hits you in 30 minutes. But they go together. We're giving you the powerful combo pack to help you boost your mind and body to their limits healthily with the Brain Force Plus and Real Red Pill Mind and Body Pack Challenge. The combo pack features Brain Force Plus and the Real Red Pill together for an unprecedented 50% off in savings. With Brain Force Plus supporting supercharging your state of mind and Real Red Pill supporting healthy aging and cognitive function, these formulas together can help you push your mind and body to their limits. Together, these products have an average 4.7 stars out of 5 rating. These powerful products are some of the most advanced formulas yet to help you change your mind and your body in the better. Get the Brain Force Plus, because now there's more in each bottle, plus the Real Red Pill Mind and Body Challenge Pack today at InfoWarsStore.com or 50% off and free shipping. And, you know, it may sell out by Monday or Tuesday because Brain Force at 50% off just evaporates off the shelves for a good reason. Because there are leading brands that are very similar, but ours is about 30% stronger, that are retailed $80. They sell for $60 all day long at stores and online. And Bezos sells a formula very similar at Whole Foods and online, discounted for $49. Ours is 30% stronger. It's organic. It's concentrated, and it funds the info war. Win, 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 win. A 360 win, a non-zero sum game. And you get it with the real red pill. Takes a week to kick in, just like X2 takes about 15 days. And life-changing energy, stamina, focus. I'll be honest with you, though. I went back on red pill because it's been sold out for a few months, and I've been back on it for 2 weeks, and it makes me aggressive as hell. So because it boosts my normal hormones. I mean, it's true. Libido, oh my gosh. It's the missing link for so many people. The real red pill with brain force. InfoWarsLive.com or 888-253-3139. Please support our local affiliates. That's critical as well. Second hour straight ahead with Jack Posobiec, and I'll play that clip when we come back of the march basically being a giant fake fiasco. Stay with us. Well, we knew it. Going back a month ago, we knew the Democrats were organizing select young people to go out and be anti-gun spokespersons to launch a nationwide youth movement against guns. We played clips earlier of movements being launched on MSNBC to have young people bully their parents into signing pledges that they will, in fact, here it is right here, promise to kids, contract, that we will vote for legislative leaders who support our children's safety over guns. But I thought it's guns protecting our children. I thought it was Broward County, Coward County, standing down. Why are you blaming gun owners? Mass shootings only kill 40-something people a year. It's still too many. But why are you hyping all this and then saying, I, as a father, that protect my children with firearms, or that police officers that protect people, that somehow we're collectively to blame? When a jihadi runs over somebody, they don't say the truck's to blame. So now we have definitive proof that this is AstroTurf. Now we have definitive proof, funded by Soros, the Women's March, the Democratic Party, that less than 10%, even MSNBC admits, we're about to play the clip, of the people at those events, at these anti-gun events, were actually even young people. It was mainly the Department of Education and government workers and Democrats, the exact same speakers, the same crowds we saw with Linda Sarsour and the Women's March that Soros spent $287 million on the day after Trump's inauguration. I was there. I saw hundreds of buses just on the streets I was, and we didn't block them from marching to the mall. The day before, they beat us up. They attacked women and children. They wouldn't let people into the Trump event, and CNN showed the rally before the gates even opened and said no one was there to hear Trump. That's the weaponized evil. That's the globalist and CNN and MSNBC. So let's go to MSNBC admitting one more piece of evidence that this was totally synthetic AstroTurf. And when I pointed that out a month ago, they made a good run at banning me off YouTube, and still thousands of other channels like the Health Ranger and others are still banned, and thousands of gun channels are being banned. This is the assault. Let's go to that clip.
Talk about the makeup of this crowd in the protest this weekend. Who was there? How many first-timers? And what impact do you think it's going to have in the long run in American politics?
Well, these are great questions, Joe. I mean, first and foremost, I think it's important to note here that while young people mobilize people to participate, what's really interesting is that less than 10% of the people in the crowd were actually under the age of 18. So that's 90% of the people there who actually can vote today. In addition to that, I think what's really important is that it turned out over a quarter of the people who had never participated in a protest before. So these are people who are mobilizing around the issue potentially. And finally, I think what's really interesting is that 16% of them were politically moderate. And that's the highest percentage of moderates that I've seen at any of these protest events since the inauguration.
So let's stop right there. Yeah, they call themselves moderate because they're told, you're moderate, you're not anti-gun. And the schools organize them, and they say, I'm going to give you all your credit for the year. Hogg brags that he's getting all his credits by not going to school and doing this. So they basically get given their diplomas if they go out. They get given their grades if they do this. But hiding in plain view, there is the facts. Jack Posobiec was there. He shot the video of just one road. Looks like 100 buses. But I was in D.C., I left that Saturday after the inauguration on Friday, and it took us 2 hours to get to the airport because there were so many buses going out of town, And they were just, I mean, I saw hundreds of buses just on the routes where I was getting out. And it was 1.5 million women. And they were Department of Education. They were wearing the stupid pink hats. They were there. And this is who they are. This is the government. This is the bureaucrats. These are the people that want to run this country. They want Cloward and Piven. We'll talk with Jack Posobiec how we counter it. Is Trump starting to go sideways on us? The big news on China and their warships threatening blood and war. I forgot that part. Bloody battle. The Chinese dictator, Xi Jinping. It's all coming up. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Jack Posobiec joins us for the hour. I intend to open the phones up coming up at the bottom of the hour. I'm Alex Jones, your host. Jack Posobiec, of course, has led citizensfortrump.com, one of the top 3 biggest citizen Trump organizations out there. He also got outed as being in naval intelligence. Not that that was a bad thing last year. They said the president tweets him, but he's really in naval intelligence. He should be kicked out of the Navy because the president likes him. That's how whacked out the globalist are. He's on Twitter at Jack Posobiec. He's a great investigative journalist. He shot video of hundreds. It's like an hour-long video of him walking down the road. Hundreds of these buses. I mean, just every major road is just filled with them. BuzzFeed and others admit Soros is funding it. The Million Mom March, all of it is funding it. So I want to get his take on the Supreme Court justice coming out. John Paul Stevens, former justice, saying it's time to repeal the Second Amendment, have nationwide gun confiscation. You can read it in his editorial article in the New York Times. We've also got Wasserman Schultz wants background checks for ammunition buyers. It just goes on and on. That's up on Infowars.com. Sociologists, less than 10% of the marchers for lives participants were children. Trump set sights to extrajudicially ban bump stocks. He is really appeasing them. That is a huge mistake. So we've got all those reports on what's happening on that front. This is quite a time to be alive. And also, if you just joined us, I should have led the broadcast with this, but the open calls to repeal the Second Amendment all over CNBC, MSNBC, CNN, everywhere. China sends massive Navy for South China Sea war games after President Xi Jinping vows to wage bloody battle for world domination. So Posobiec can specifically speak to this because he's lived in China. He's been in the Navy. He's been stationed over there. He's been in naval intelligence. Russia, China eclipse U.S. in hypersonic missiles, promoting fears. The Hill. FCC wants Chinese tech out of U.S. phones and routers. I told you about that 15 years ago. So you get next year's news today. Now it's mainstream news from the FCC. Yeah, folks, Russia is not the issue other than their hypersonic Satan missile. That's what we call it. And the rest of it, and by the way, if you think they really got stuff faster, the stuff you see is the U.S. 1980s technology. But it doesn't matter. We can all still kill each other. It's stupid. 6 countries are planning state boycotts of the 2018 World Cup. Child gangs fight for garbage on Venezuela streets. More video of that. You know, the heaven of socialism that Bernie Sanders wants to give us. That is just some of what we've got. And Obama and Hillary violated federal law. It's coming out in the news, with Facebook fully behind them in both campaigns. That's right. So this Cambridge Analytica thing, they work for everybody. But by the media going after this and telling the big secret that Facebook's a giant data mining, the Democrats are blowing up their own ship. Jack Posobiec, there's a lot to cover. Congratulations on getting married and all the great stuff you're doing and still doing the great work. I see it's so prolific as you reach millions a day. I know you got a lot of exciting stuff you're going to be announcing soon we can't get into on air, but congratulations on all your great work. What do you want to tackle first of that palette of information I just laid out?
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate your kind words there, and my wife appreciates it as well. So we just had the March for Our Lives here in Washington, D.C., that video I shot on Saturday. Of course, the March for Our Lives got huge coverage in the mainstream media, the press, but the March for Life, the pro-life march that was just held last month in D.C. that I also attended, was not covered in the mainstream media. It was covered, if they did, they gave a thimble of worth of coverage to it, and they covered a little bit of President Trump's remarks. President Trump has been called the greatest pro-life president we've ever had, but the media didn't cover that. Instead, they covered this thing, and so we were told, that this was spontaneous, that it was an organic outflowing of passion and emotion.
And that was a lie. That was a lie. That is a lie.
Yeah, as I went there, I mean, you could see the level of organization. And Alex, to be quite honest, I've never seen so much organization for a private event, and I've never seen so much security as they had. This was presidential level security they had there, from private security services, from DC police, and from National Guard military vehicles that were brought out onto the streets of DC. This was something that DC hasn't seen this level of security since President Trump's inauguration. I know you saw that.
And by the way, you were there, I was there. They ordered the Capitol Police, the D.C. police, to stand down at most of the entrances and not let people in. That came out on the news. The police said that. So Trump is classy. He gave massive protection to this Soros march when the Democrats wouldn't give us protection.
That's exactly right. And of course, there were no issues with this march whatsoever. Now, one interesting thing that was going on as well is that this game they're playing with the numbers. They're trying to say that this was bigger, but actually the women's march was much bigger than this event. This only had about 200,000. The way they did it was they crammed everyone onto Pennsylvania Avenue and sort of instead of the big wide Washington Mall, the National Mall that's right there. So you can still get that background shot of Capitol Hill, but the street itself, it's a DC street, it's much more narrow. So it seems like it's a lot of people. It was actually almost half the size of the Women's March.
And by the way, this is something I noticed with mainstream media. If they've only got 10 anti-gunners out, they get them all together and then shoot up towards the Capitol here in Austin. It's the same trick. You could tell those over-the-head shots were in streets, all crammed in at the stage like it was a rock concert. Again, the Capitol Police estimated 300 to 400,000, as you said. CNN and others claimed 1 million. You were there. You're estimating 200,000.
I'd say 200, 250 tops. I mean, even that street itself, you can see that some of the lanes are blocked off from security cordons. Of course, they built major barricades around this whole thing. They built a wall, as a matter of fact, and you couldn't get anywhere near the stage. Because of the way it was all crammed in, so they had TVs all over the place. I kind of ducked out after a little while because it was clear that they weren't even allowing people to get up to the front. They just wanted their TV shots.
You were there. I was watching on C-SPAN as they rolled loops of Ted Nugent, myself, Dana Loesch, and the crowd would chant.
I saw that, yes.
How bizarre was it to actually be there?
You know, it was really weird because when they showed Dana Loesch and yourself and Ted Nugent and everybody else, I saw that and I said, yeah, I don't really have a problem with anything any one of these people are saying. But then I realized that you could hear the crowd. They were being urged to boo. They were being urged to sort of see everyone who is pro-gun as an enemy, everyone who talks about this as an enemy. So they were urging people to boo these videos. They were urging people to see anyone as pro-Second Amendment as an enemy. And that's essentially what was trying to come up.
Oh, that's another thing. Can we cue up the sheriff? I went and looked at Paul Watson's article on InfoWars. I went and looked at Steven Crowder's articles. I looked at stuff you tweeted that night. And it looked like about a third of the signs said, we're going to ban all the guns. We're going to kill you if you don't turn your guns in. And then I heard talk like that from the speakers. I saw other people. This is a new theme where they're not denying they want to ban the Second Amendment. What do you make of this calls to ban it and calls for violence?
Well, what's interesting is that, I've talked to so many people in law enforcement and the military about this, and I'd say a good sizable amount of them are saying that they would not follow that order if that was ever given in our country. That people need to understand there are so many police officers, so many American military members that know that they swore an oath to the Constitution, and that includes the Second Amendment. And if that was ever given, you'd see a lot of badges in dustbins and trash bins. If that actually happened, they were trying to confiscate guns because they're just not going to do it. That being said, there may be troops, there may be police that would, of course, continue with that order, would comply with that order. So you'd get this huge split kind of situation.
Just like happened in Russia in 1917.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, exactly like Russia.
They get the central government, and they kind of cut off the food, and over a couple of years make us all turn everything in. That is a real scenario. They're talking about a civil war. We're not the ones pushing this. Why do you think they're suddenly going from denying they want the guns to officially saying in the New York Times, everywhere, we want to completely ban them and confiscate them?
They're overreaching, as the left always does. They're overreaching and telling you for once what they truly believe. Usually Obama was smart enough to say that, oh, we just want regulations. Then you actually saw the regulations and realized how bad it was. Now they're coming out and specifically just saying what it is. They want to ban guns. They want to ban AR-15s. They want to ban what they call assault weapons.
Well, yeah. No, I mean, now they want to ban all the semi-autos, but now they just say ban them all. in fact, that's what he argues. John Paul Stevens says, go back to only black powder. That's all citizens can have. I mean, talk about a recipe for crime and enslavement. We'll be back with Jack Posobiec. Stay with us. Jack Posobiec, prolific writer, researcher, investigative journalist. Very soon he'll be announcing a big national gig that he's going to be doing. I'm going to leave it at that, but tomorrow's news or next month's news today is our specialty. And we're just really excited to see the things that are happening in the media, in libertarian, nationalistic, conservative media. Now, I want to shift gears into an area where you've got expertise, living in China, being in the Navy, in the South China Sea, doing clandestine things that you obviously can't get into, Jack, with your great career in the Navy and now fighting for the Republic right here in America. What do you make of this headline? China sends massive Navy for South China Sea war games after President Xi Jinping vows to wage bloody battle for world domination. Again, that ties into FCC wants Chinese tech out of U.S. phones, routers. They're able to kill our entire phone grid because they control the database, ladies and gentlemen, through this Swiss and Dutch companies that the Chinese own and control. Apple is now merging with Communist China officially, giving them the keys to the kingdom. That's mainstream news. Talk about a national security threat. Look, I'm not a Russophile. I've never been to Russia. I intend to go over there sometime and meet my bosses, supposedly, but they're becoming Christian. They're becoming nationalist. Hollywood hates them because they're Christian. And I see all the things the president's doing with no proof of this nerve gassing. They don't even say if this Russian and his daughter are alive or dead. They won't give us any info. This former GRU colonel. We're just told all these new sanctions, 14 countries, ban playing soccer in Russia. Putin's the enemy. Meanwhile, from my research and just what's open source, China has a footprint thousands of times more intense in the U.S. They're taking over rare earth minerals. They've got the huge Navy. They've got submarines. Their actual ground forces dwarf the Russians. They're in our business. They're buying up Hollywood. I mean, it is just incredible. All I'm saying is I'm all about dealing with foreign enemies. I'm all about U.S. dominance if we're projecting the American way of life. But I see Russia lined up more and more with us and with the Trump nationalist agenda. So what is Trump doing? Virtue signaling to the left? Virtue signaling to neutralize Mueller and his fake investigation? I mean, I see this as a serious problem. So, A, what do you make of Trump on this front? I'm not mad at him. I trust him. He's doing a great job. Light years better than Hillary. Thank God. The globalists hate him. But still, what is going on here? It isn't very Trumpian to give in to his critics and then destroy détente with Russia. And then what's the big enchilada with China? Jack Posobiec.
Well, Alex, the president is trying to walk a fine line when it comes to Russia. He's trying to essentially, as you've said, appease some of these critics of Russia, appease some of the what's going out in terms of this Skripal situation, whether or not Skripal and his daughter are dead or not, we don't even know. They're trying to appease critics. They're trying to push back on the Russia collusion narrative by being a little bit more heavy-handed when it comes to Russia on the diplomatic front. That being said, the U.S. and Russia are also both involved in military operations in Syria, where they've got to fly a lot of deconfliction. They've got to make sure there are situations where we're not killing Russian soldiers, and obviously we don't want Russia, attacking any of our troops that are on the ground there. We do have troops on the ground in Syria, even though it's not talked about a lot. So we have to be very vigilant of that. And there is a lot of information and operation sharing that goes on just for that deconfliction. Now, at the same time, what China's doing in turning around is, while all of this is happening, Trump is trying to use China as leverage on North Korea right now. They know that he needs their leverage. That's why Kim Jong-un is in Beijing right now. He took the armored train up there, the same one his dad used to ride. And they're using all of this to go and lay claim, really solidify their claim to the South China Sea. They see it as the Chinese lake. And they've drawn lines saying essentially that all of the Pacific should be part of China, should be China's sphere of influence, and they're really laying down their markers hard on the South China Sea. They were building islands, building bases there, armed bases there during the last bit of the Obama administration. The Obama administration was very weak towards them. They didn't really do too much with it. So now they're waiting, and while Trump is distracted on Russia and North Korea issues, they're using it to make their final push to grab the South China Sea and solidify it with a huge show of force they're doing right now at this exercise. Unprecedented for China, by the way, to do this kind of exercise so far off of the Chinese coast. Now, normally, we used to joke that the Chinese Navy Navy was a brown water Navy because they stayed so close to the coast. Well, this is the first time that China is getting into the blue water in such a major show of force like this. You could almost compare this in some ways. It's not quite as big yet, but if you remember back to our history, the Great White Fleet of Teddy Roosevelt in the early part of the 19th century, 20th century, just about 100 years ago, that was really showing the U.S.'s dominance around the world. Now, China has
Sure, it's just like with the sinking of the Maine and President McKinley, and then the launch of the U.S. from a nation into a global empire, taking over the former Spanish and Portuguese coaling stations throughout the Pacific and even the southern Atlantic and central Atlantic. You're absolutely right. And China now sees itself modeling that in a major breakout into the world. But unlike the U.S., we just declared we had navigation rights. They are declaring they control not just the South China Sea, but all the way down into the Philippines. That we haven't seen this since the Japanese did this in World War II.
That's exactly right. In fact, a lot of this territory is the same territory where World War II was fought, all the way from Iwo Jima, from Okinawa, which is very close to this area, to Taiwan, which of course is still under a major part of conflict between the two countries, and all the way down to the Philippines, which the U.S. took in the Spanish-American War, 1898. Now it's coming back to that's exactly right next to where the Philippines had their territorial claims.
That's right, and the Chinese are studying that, and their war planners are admitting they're preparing for war. Here's the quote by Xi Jinping, the dictator. He's ready to wage bloody battle for world domination. I mean, talk about incredible rhetoric. What is going on there?
Yeah, the last time that China got involved in this area, they had a skirmish with the Vietnamese in the 1970s over some of these islands. And they won, but they had a very bloody time of it because they had trouble getting their supplies down to out to sea there for these island battles. So what they're using now with these islands that they've created, these artificial islands, are going to be outposts, coaling stations, supply stations, and possibly armed stations. They could also put, what they're trying to do is with their aircraft carrier, they're going to basically station an air wing down in the South China Sea and then use that for operations on and off that aircraft carrier and really project their air.
And let's be clear.
Imagine how much distance you get out of that.
And let's be clear, our navies bragged that they only had a brown water Navy. Now they have a blue water Navy. They've got a blue water Navy in their merchant fleet, which is Chinese intelligence, as you know. And they're more projected than we are globally into every sector of the planet. Go ahead.
No, that's absolutely correct. And this is something that we see with North Korea as well, that these civilian ships will be used for intelligence collection and occasionally with special forces. In China, they're referred to sort of as the little green men, basically irregulars or ununiformed members of the Chinese Communist Party or militia. You'll sometimes see them referred to in Chinese writing in their newspapers and their academic journals. And they're outwardly saying this. This isn't classified information. You can go and read any Chinese naval journal, and they're telling you this is exactly what they're doing.
Exactly. They said first we took over 98% of the rare earth minerals. Now they're going in and buying off all the local governments in Africa, Latin America, Asia. And now they're building artificial islands. Now they're preparing all sorts of low-cost attack drones to take on our larger ships. I mean, China is in a stand-up military mode, and thank God Trump's standing against them, because previously Hillary was on their payroll. Stay with us. We'll be back. All right, folks, I want to open the phones up specifically for Jack Posobiec on the Second Amendment attack, on the omnibus spending bill, on the communist Chinese. But if you want to get hysterical, if you want to get upset, if you've studied history, like I have, it's addicting. The communist Chinese, funded by Goldman Sachs and the big banks, have gone from 90% of their public being basically dirt farmers with no electricity to 300, 400 million people that are industrialized, and a total economic takeover based on how enslaved the Chinese people are. And the fact that our media ignores that it's authoritarian, the fact that they ignore that they're the biggest mass murderers in history, the fact that they ignore that they're in every country in the world. I mean, it was even in the Washington Post a month ago that they caught Chinese intelligence basically running UT. Well, yeah, you show up with $100 million. The Chinese don't play games, folks. They just start giving people $1 million checks. And it's so embarrassing for UT. I knew about this a couple of years ago. It's so embarrassing to UT because they got into all the DARPA stuff. This stuff's not really guarded, okay? I know what's at UT. I shouldn't even know. I was let into a DARPA area 16 years ago, and I couldn't believe the guy let me in. I said, are you crazy? And he later went to MIT. He's one of their top people. And he said, oh, it's no big deal. They don't care. And I was shown incredible stuff. And again, the rooms weren't classified. They had DARPA on the wall. It was the terminals that went to buildings outside Austin. And it was primate research. And let's just say it was like a nightmare. I only looked at it for a couple minutes. And I was just getting a late night tour of the psychology department. The communist Chinese were given control of that. And in fact, type it in, UT caught getting Chinese government intelligence money. I'm just using UT as a microcosm 2 miles from where we broadcast from, okay? That's what I'm getting at, how crazy all this is, and how they've got this giant blue water merchant navy that's really intelligence and military operatives, and they're buying everybody off. They bought up Hollywood. They're moving against everybody, and Trump is absolutely right to be standing up against them and having our ships go through the South China Sea. They've always gone through there. And the last time somebody said no was the Japanese, so this is such a big deal. And then to see Russia being who's being demonized. If the Russians were blocking the North Sea and saying we couldn't navigate through it, I'd say that's an act of war. If the Russians had bought up most of Hollywood, I'd be very upset. If the Russians were involved at UT, in the physics department, the psychology department, which is really the Department of War, I would be very upset. They are in our business. Jack Posobiec, you know, not wearing your naval intelligence hat, but just as a patriot and a citizen, as a reporter, how do we quantify how big this threat is? Because I'm not defending Russia, but the distraction of Russia is for me, is a major issue, because we're looking at a group that can barely get their stoplights working nationwide and has major collapse issues. That's why Soros is on their ass, in my view. Give me your expert opinion. And I look at China, who is just leveraging their hardworking people that are slaves, and our media rolling on a red carpet, and it just makes me get angry.
Yeah, Alex, what people don't understand is how much of U.S. trade and how much of world trade and just in terms of goods and products are going through the South China Sea, that are going through merchant shipping lanes through the Straits of Malacca there, that are coming up through. So pretty much almost all of the world's oil is coming through a lot of these areas, so much in terms of energy, so much in terms of just our regular consumer products are coming through these areas and going to our trading partners as well. So what we've got to look at is, what if we get to a situation where China, now they're not focusing on this in a direct confrontation because that's what China does, but what they're focusing on is slowly but surely gobbling up all the avenues of economic power, economic security. Got a great view here, you can show this, where so much trade, even coming out of Korea, so much of the Korean situation goes through this, that people aren't putting two and two together on, because this is the power that China is trying to achieve. They're not just looking at the military power, they're having economic power first, and then they're backing that up with their military, they're backing that up with their Navy. And even today, you know, we live in the 21st century, but still something like 95% of goods are shipped on the seas. So any of the goods that you're getting, especially with China, now how they have their economy set up is a manufacturer. They don't have the raw material themselves. They don't have raw minerals. They don't have the raw resources. They purchase it from us and places like Africa, other different countries around the world. They manufacture it and then they ship it back out. So they understand that for them, this is a pressure point that they know they need to focus on imports and imports, because if we were ever to get into a situation with China and place a naval embargo on them or place a blockade on them, that they wouldn't be able to fund their economy.
And clearly they're gearing up.
They're saying it up first.
They're gearing up for war and saying for war, and they're the ones belligerently saying they control the South China Sea, which is a blockade of Japan and the Philippines and Taiwan and everybody else. I mean, we have to respond to this. This is just outrageously aggressive, and I think they're arrogant because the CFR said the Chinese century's coming. The globalists bet on this. Davos bets on this. They say that Jinping is basically their globalist god. And so I think it's that arrogance of the globalists that has empowered the communist Chinese to be this delusional.
What it is, Alex, is they see the Chinese as going to be the winners regardless, one way or the other. They all view the people in this sort of the Wall Street set, the New York set, they view the U.S. as in decline. They think the U.S. doesn't have a chance of coming back to power or coming back to
dominance. And they're doing everything they can to make us, they're doing everything they can. They're doing everything they can to make us decline. Sorry, you're absolutely right. Start over, sorry.
Right, so they've decided to pin their hopes and pin their dreams and pin all of our economic successes and all of they're putting their money in China. They're putting their money overseas. They're investing in China. All the foreign direct investment they're putting out is going into China. They're filling up the coffers of the Chinese army, the Chinese military, which gets so much of this money, and they know it. They know exactly what they're doing because they've decided that America should be on the decline, that China is the future, and they want to be in bed with these leaders.
You know, I jumped in there because as an American, I get so upset. But it's not just about an ego, like they're a football team, we're a football team. They sell Christians' organs. They sell Buddhist organs. Mao killed 80+ million people. They've killed tens of millions since. They now have a dictator in Xi Jinping, and our media defends it. And it just shows how authoritarian they are when they have these kids' marches, over 16 dead, trying to take our rights. And to know the communist Chinese are on record, Jack, funding Hollywood, funding liberal media, funding universities, literally pushing this anti-America agenda to make sure with regulations and control.
Well, using children is a Maoist tactic. This goes back to the Cultural Revolution, Chairman Mao and the Red Guards. It was all led by these hyper-partisan children that were targeting teachers, targeting parents, targeting anybody that was considered against the revolution. They called it counter-revolutionary, struggle sessions, out in public, forcing apologies. And if they didn't believe you enough, well, you got offed.
Now, what you just said is so critical. You're a naval officer, a patriot, a successful guy in the free market of ideas, one of the biggest Trump organizations out there, and you're laying out what is known fact in the Pentagon, what is known fact in Hollywood. The globalist Lloyd Blankfein bragged a few months ago and said, you'll never build America's infrastructure. You're done. It's over. China's the future. Well, notice he's out. Trump is literally standing up and trying to just be fair and get us some industry, some jobs, some future when everything's been decided to sell out America. And this is an anti-American 21st century war to deindustrialize us. It's a fact. And it's being orchestrated and funded by the communist Chinese at the universities with literal Mao youth brigades as the model to intimidate us into submission. How could all Americans not join Trump and us to say no to this, Jack?
Yeah, you know, I've actually talked to some folks over in Europe, people that the family members of mine and friends in Poland that said, don't give up your rights. Don't do it. This is what they make you do. They make you think it's smart, but don't give up your rights. Never give up your rights.
Jack, you just hit it. Why is Eastern Europe the most on fire sector of the world awake to what's happening? We'll talk about that. Poland, Hungary, they get it. They understand it. What's happening in the East? We'll be back. We are now, ladies and gentlemen, under the globalist blitzkrieg. You know, I said I'd go to calls, but our guest is leaving us here. I'm going to open the phones up for Ben Garrison coming up. He likes to take phone calls. Maybe we'll take a few here with Jack Posobiec. The toll-free number to join us is 877-789-2539, 877-789. Alex, first-time callers, again, 877-789-2539. I promise, yesterday I ended the show with like 15 callers on hold. I will get to all your calls, at least those that call in right now. Look, I'm going to go back to Jack Posobiec here in just a moment. I'm going to lay it out to you. I've studied the Renaissance. I've studied Western civilization. I've studied China. I've studied Japan. I've studied Latin America. I've studied it all. Not because I was a bookworm. It was so incredibly interesting when I was 10 years old and started reading history books. So I've read thousands of history books. I haven't read one in a couple of years. I'm too busy now. But I've got my world database. And when you know history, that's why Posobiec's so smart. He immediately started saying the communist Chinese are modeling after U.S. expansion after William McKinley and the Spanish-American War. Now, that's actually what the Naval War College and all of them actually understand and what the Chinese War College has said. So he's not telling you something classified, but that's actually the thinking. This is going on. The decision has been made that China is the model for global domination. If China was free market, and China treated people with respect, I don't care. The left has made America go into decline. They're using leftist controls to make us sabotaged. China has zero taxes on the elite. China has it all set up so we can't compete. That's how evil the left is. They are out to destroy the country. They want your guns. They want your churches. They want your life. They want to break you. They want to dominate you. And the decision has been made by the big banks in Hollywood to do this. That's why this is such a war and why it's so critical. And that's why things are so serious. But I want to get into Eastern Europe. Article came out this weekend. The head of the Hungarian parliament came out and laid out they want to end our families. They're erasing all culture. They're the enemy. We must stop it. Why does Eastern Europe get it? We'll talk to Jack Posobiec in a moment. But first, we are running a special 50% off on Brain Force, which is the ultimate nootropic out there for the price. Leading competitors that have similar formulas are $50 to $80. They're not even as strong. They're not even as organic. Brain Force, ladies and gentlemen, all said and done, cost us over $10 a bottle. At $19.95, that's insane. The average supplement has a 7-time markup. It's a great deal at $35. It's 50% off right now, $19.95. See how great it is. Natural, healthy pickup, the key elements, some of the stuff's prescription in Europe. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com. We have a special running with the Real Red Pill. That takes a week. It's a 7-day challenge. Brain Force kicks in 30 minutes. But we have the Brain Force Plus Real Red Pill Mind and Body Challenge Pack, 50% off in store for a limited time. We're giving you a powerful combo pack to help you boost your body, your mind to the limits healthily with Brain Force Plus and the Real Red Pill with the Mind and Body Challenge. The combo pack features Brain Force Plus and the Real Red Pill together for an impressive 50% off savings, and I should add, free shipping. You can get them both 50% off by themselves. Get free shipping when you get them together. With Brain Force Plus supporting supercharging your state of mind and the Red Pill supporting healthy aging and cognitive function, these formulas together can help you push your mind and body to the next level. Together, these products have an average of 4.7 out of 5-star rating. So again, together, these products have an average of 4.7 out of 5-star rating. These powerful products are some of the most advanced formulas yet to help you change your mind and body. Get the Brain Force Plus and the Real Red Pill together with the Mind and Body Challenge at InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsLife.com, 50% off and free shipping. We got books, T-shirts, videos, radios, water filtration, all of it's just high-quality products that you and your family need. David Hogg on C-SPAN goes, you notice Jones claims there's chemicals in the water that are bad for you and that give you cancer, and then he sells you water filters. Hogg, you caught me in my slick deception. No, see, Hogg, teleprompter readers, actors, Decepticons, they're always thinking of the angle or the scam. See, with me, it's all slamming into you straight on, straight shooting. That's how old-fashioned Texans do it. See, yes, I filter my water. Yes, the water's full of glyphosates and poison. Yes, we have the very highest rated gravity-fed filters and other systems. We have 6 or 7 of the best companies out there. They're all apples and oranges. Some are better at this, some are better than that. But whatever the highest rated stuff is, I go become a distributor. I get the best sales of it. I get the lowest price to buy it in bulk so we can fund the operation. So yes, David Hogg's like, notice he says the water has got toxins and then you should filter it, and then he sells filters. Oh my gosh, oh my God, oh wow, you figure. Again, he thinks that's a scam. See, you can't cheat an honest man, they used to say. But it's always the people that are into scams and deception that see everything else as a scam. Yes, Hogg, we're selling water filters. I really believe you need them. The studies show it. All right, enough of me. We got this little segment and one more with Jack Posobiec, then calls coming up. Jack, Eastern Europe, the Czech Republic, Poland, Hungary, Romania, Russia to a great extent, rediscovering Christian roots, rejecting Islamic invasion, rejecting Soros. I read the statements of the speeches of the presidents and prime ministers. It's like InfoWars. It's like Jack Posobiec, the eugenics, the end of our family, the global corporate takeover. What is going on in the East?
Well, Alex, in Eastern Europe, they've been through this so many times before with different invasions, whether it be from the Ottoman Turks, whether it be from the Huns in Central Asia that have come through. They've fought for their civilization. They fought for their culture so many times, and they just got over the communist, essentially Soviet occupation of Eastern Europe with the Warsaw Pact. They're still digging out from under that, and that's why they understand and are so sensitive to any of these takeover attempts, any of these foreign ideologies that are being pushed on top of them by these people that are going after, they're trying to change this, and they're trying to stop anyone who speaks out against it. They're trying to shut anyone down who is a whistleblower. We now know, of course, And one piece of information that my sources are telling me, Alex, is you mentioned Cambridge Analytica earlier. And the investigation, what I've heard is that actually they're trying to tie that back to Julian Assange and WikiLeaks and his activity that had gone on during the election. They're trying to tie it back, say that he took stolen documents and posted them on Facebook and posted them on Twitter, and that Cambridge Analytica was driving the whole thing. And they're trying to use this to pin down a charge on Assange to essentially indict him, and Mueller knows this, and Mueller is looking at this. This is something that MI6 really wants. This is something that U.S. secret agencies want. The intel agencies have wanted for a long time to get Assange under something. They're trying to pin this all on Assange to shut him up, to shut down WikiLeaks, because they don't want anyone essentially. And what was their crime, right? They told you what the leaders were doing.
Jack, you talk about the instinct in Eastern Europe to stand up against being overrun. How do we reach out to the average leftist that's brainwashed so they understand you are being enslaved? You are a chump. You are buying Soros propaganda.
You know, one thing I like to try to do is to say, why is it that all of these celebrities agree with you? Why is it that when everyone in power, everyone in the mainstream media agrees with every single one of the talking points that you're saying? Are you really being rebellious when you've got this entire establishment that's echoing the exact same talking points and phrases that you are? And I've noticed that with some of them, with the ones that are at least willing to have some of that introspection, they will actually kind of consider that and say, you know, that's weird. I didn't think about it that way.
And again, less than 10% MSNBC admits we're actually under the age of 18. This is giant, ridiculous astroturf. And I go back to that question. Trump on the omnibus bill, giving lip service to the gun control. What do you think he's doing there?
I think it's appeasement, Alex. He's trying to appease the left. He's trying to say that he's doing something that's bipartisan.
I agree, but that only encourages these people.
No, they said there was one student that gave a speech at the March for Our Lives and said, if you give us an inch on bump stocks, we will take a mile. That was specifically what the quote was.
Yeah, that was Delana Tarr. Do we have that clip of her? Here she is.
There are so very many things, so many steps to take. Like right now, sign our petition. It takes 2 seconds, and it matters. We will take the big, and we will take the small, but we will keep fighting. When they give us that inch, that bump stock ban, we will take a mile. We are not here for breadcrumbs. We are here for real change.
And there you go. I mean, they just, I said that and my ears went straight up. My antenna went straight up and said, there it is. That's the signal right there.
We got to go to break, do 5 more minutes with you, because I want to ask you a critical question. I want to ask the audience this question, and I want to ask them to think about this. Why, after decades of saying they don't want to confiscate the guns, they don't want to repeal the Second Amendment, why suddenly at the March to Grab Your Guns, at the March to Enslave America, on the New York Times, former Supreme Court justices, why are they suddenly admitting they want to confiscate the guns? Why are they now admitting it? Because when they finally get to the point of doing it, they've got to go from denying it to doing it. That's why. That's my answer. I'm going to ask Posobiec what he thinks. Your phone call's coming up. Please spread the live links however you're watching or listening. Without you, the globalists will win. We are in a war. This is the fight for the Second American Revolution, and it's worldwide. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we tend to procrastinate throughout our lives, and we wake up dead. But not me. I'm not going to roll over and pretend I'm fighting the globalists. I'm going to do it. Jack Posobiec's our guest here. He's leaving us here in just a few minutes. We were getting into why they're suddenly admitting they want to ban the guns and confiscate them. It's like they're trying to start a civil war. Why have they denied they want the guns when all over the world is the same formula? Their internal documents show they want to confiscate the guns. It's total slavery. It's like they've done in China. Why suddenly, Jack Posobiec, do you think they're admitting their plan to confiscate our firearms?
Yeah, Alex, no, part of it on one hand is that they're overstepping, but another part of it is that they're ginning up their base as much as possible for the 2018 elections. They're throwing out just as much, just like when the Republicans come out and say we're going to do this and that, and then they never do it when they get into office. That's something the Democrats are doing now too. That's some of these talking points that we're starting to see. They're going more and more extreme because they want the hardcore left-wingers to be coming out for the midterm elections. That's something that was really, really pushed at this march, was make sure you come out to vote, make sure you're registered to vote, make sure you're there in November. I don't see anyone doing that on the right. I don't see anyone on the right putting together rallies like this or tying it back to elections, tying it back to the fact that we're in a huge midterm. And if the Democrats do take the House, the very first thing they're going to do is look at impeachment charges for Trump. They know exactly how to do this. They're going to take control of the House Judiciary Committee, and they're going to tie it all back. They're trying to get as many of these blue wave types to come out in the election, and they're going to say anything they can possibly do to get it.
Well, my friend, you're absolutely right. And the Democrats are fully engaged, fully awake. And as long as we get engaged and awake, we'll win because we have the intellectual arguments, we have history, we have the thinkers, not the stinkers. And I think there's a major miscalculation here. If we do our job and get involved and engage, there's nothing they can do because we have the facts and history on our side. And I think the globalists in their admission, they're coming for the guns. And as you said earlier, this overreach will blow up in their face if we show up. But if we don't show up to the polls or show up at the rallies or show up calling into C-SPAN or show up writing books or show up, making films or show up supporting broadcasts like these or what you do, if we don't engage every day, we will lose. But if we realize this is the animating contest of liberty and freedom isn't free, and that a control freak culture of brainwashed young people from public schools is literally seeing their career as running our lives, if we take action, they will lose.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Alex. Honestly, I think that if this election becomes about the Second Amendment, it's going to be very hard to not see a lot of people on the right coming out to vote and actually so going kind of backfiring on the left in terms of their overreach here. Because if you tell people that we're going to take your guns, then that's actually something that's going to get a lot of people off their seats, off their butts, and out to the polls in November. Because let's face it, the Republicans aren't doing themselves any favors with this omnibus bill. They're not doing themselves any favors by trying to block Trump, everything he's trying to do, block his nominees, block this and that. He's getting some of the bad people out of his offices for now. But when it comes down to it, the Republican Party just hasn't been pro-Trump. They haven't been supportive of the president's agenda, and I think it's turned off a lot of voters. So you make this election about guns, suddenly they have a chance, and maybe even have a chance to get some real pro-Trump conservatives in the primary system, get rid of some of these never-Trumper incumbents.
Bottom line, Jack Posobiec, we are living history right now, and thank God you're out there. Thank God so many other people are out there. I know you're a big Trump supporter, so am I, but I thought he got rid of a bunch of neocons and globalists, but we need to really keep his feet to the fire and make sure we get the word out to him so that he stays on the straight and narrow and realizes compromising with the globalist that way is destruction. Citizensfortrump.com, on Twitter, Jack Posobiec. We'll talk to you again soon, Jack. Thanks for all the time and great job covering the gun grabber march.
Thanks, Alex.
All right, we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Why isn't Fox News pointing out it's Soros funded? Why do we have to do it?
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones. Alex Jones.
There's a lot of controversy around this network about Alex Jones.
Google is being accused of hiding negative stories about Hillary and her campaign by changing its algorithm to bury stories like the Clinton body count story. That's according to website InfoWars.
It sounds like it's confirmed there are at least 2 shooters with fully automatic weapons.
Dr. Martin Luther King has been shot to death in Memphis, Tennessee.
JFK was shot from the back and the front.
It was almost as if they were a planned implosion. It just pancaked.
They took the babies out of incubators, left the children to die on the cold floor.
I think this is a national security imperative. We have clear things that we do not understand how they work, operating in areas that we can't control. UFOs.
Is this global governance at last? Is it one world? The central bankers in charge.
Israel claims the attack was accidental. But some former U.S. naval officers say it was on purpose. They describe the day's action as part of a continuing cover-up.
Russian intelligence compiled a dossier on Mr. Trump during visits to Moscow.
Russian scum!
Denied everything. He called it all fake news.
And he accused CNN of being fake news.
This is the national emergency.
If they kill Trump or remove Trump, it will cause a massive massive civil war in this country.
This is a high-level alert.
We are at war with Russia.
Are you aware that Mr. Stone also stated publicly that he was in direct communication with Julian Assange and WikiLeaks?
The White House and the president are citing InfoWars.
If they can shut us down, you're next.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance. It's Alex Jones.
I'm just going to get into all the Hollywood people that are anti-gun, that improperly using firearms in movies, and the fact that, by extension, YouTube banning average citizens displaying firearms, using firearms, they've opened themselves up to total discrimination lawsuits because they let Twitch and Amazon and all these other platforms show guns being used improperly, simulated murders, real murders, you name it. Billions of people watching a week.
Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek. Newtown.
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 How many more?
And then they want to ban thousands of pro-gun channels. That's what's being banned. And it's a monopoly action by Hollywood and the dirtbags. And it's against the gun culture.
My name's Hank Strange, and I wanted to make a video because YouTube has recently, matter of fact, last night or early this morning, clarified their rules on firearms in videos. We're in a highly regulated field already, and what we do is legal. We wouldn't do something illegal. We don't do illegal things anyway, but we definitely wouldn't do something illegal and then post it as a video. But YouTube is just basically making up their own rules specifically for gun guys. So obviously they have a problem with us. You know, we didn't hurt anyone, and yet we find ourselves in a position where YouTube is definitely setting us up so that they can start deleting channels or making strikes. And for sure, they're removing our ability to speak freely about something that is absolutely legal and, as a matter of fact, guaranteed by the Second Amendment here in America.
The new sports stars, like Ready Player One, are going to be virtual reality players with billions of people watching world championships of different types of video games. That is just mind-blowing.
There'll be probably at any given time 40 to 50 players actually playing, but the featured match will be on the big screen for everybody to watch, and that'll have commentators calling play-by-play in the match, and then that'll be streamed on Twitch. We'll probably have around 10 to 20,000 viewers online of this tomorrow.
Now, this is not an attack on the First Amendment that's happening. This is an attack on the Second Amendment, and it's an attack on every other amendment. But when I say it's not an attack on the First Amendment, that's already under total attack. This attack on the first is to get the second, because if they can shut down our free speech on YouTube, Facebook, everywhere, and kill the gun culture, they think they're going to win. But it really is an attack on them all. And we've got the Hong Kong Stock Exchange down 1.90 points. It's all going to happen. It's a war. It's what it's about. We'll see who blinks first. But here we are, the American people, InfoWars, Trump, you, everybody, together right at that magic point when their world government was launching, and we were supposed to fall to take it all away from them. Almost like it was planned. That's right, my friends. You will be defeated, globalists. Now, folks, we're going to go to break here in a few minutes and come back with Ben Garrison of GRRRgraphics.com. He is probably the most prolific, if not the most prolific, political editorialist out there in the world today. And now they've got animated Ben Garrison graphics. We'll put the YouTube channel up and maybe put some of those on screen for TV viewers right now, and we'll get Ben Garrison to tell us where people can find all of those. But I really love seeing these animated. You know, Ben told me years ago that particular famous one that we have framed on the wall here, that is one inspired by one of my allegories of the left-right paradigm when it's controlled. So that's all coming up, ladies and gentlemen, with these new animated graphics that just take it to a whole nother level. In fact, you could say he was the most prolific and most successful. I think with these now being animated, that this is definitely the next level. And we are in an information war. They are definitely scared of him. Everybody needs to follow him at Garrison Tunes there on Twitter. And I've intended to do this, and I keep waiting and procrastinating. I've carried some of his coffee table books and things, InfoWarsStore.com. But I want to work with him with limited edition prints and really make InfoWars a clearinghouse for this stuff, because art is culture. Art is a weapon. You can also follow him again at Graphics, GRR Graphics. That's his main Twitter, but he's also got the animated one. Because, you know, you'll see his graphics shared by millions of people, but then it's always on somebody else's channel. How about share it actually where it came from to support the artist? Because they have targeted him, obviously. They've tried to shut him down. They've tried to block him. He's been published many times in all the biggest magazines and newspapers, but not so much now that he's been a libertarian and a patriot and pro-America. So he's not just a great graphics guy. He's also a patriot. And that's what this comes down to. We're going to go to break and come back to him here in just a moment. We're under globalist attack, and we sell products to fund the operation, to syndicate the radio show, to syndicate the TV show, to make the news reports, to write the articles, to have the investigative crew. And we're running a special right now that is 50% off our best-selling product, Brain Force, which is a top-quality brain pill, nootropic, super healthy for your mind, your mental stamina, your acuity, your focus. And then it's 50% off by itself or with the Real Red Pill that has the pregnenolone, that is the precursor to all your hormones, that after age 20, 25 starts going down. Without the pregnenolone in your body naturally, you can't produce, your body can't even make the hormones it normally needs. So it's not hormone replacement. It's natural, it's healthy, it's safe. It is simply the precursor to it all with a bunch of key vitamins and minerals and amino acids, so your body can then metabolize it and use it. There's a 7-day challenge, because Brain Force hits you in 30 minutes. The Real Red Pill takes about a week or so till you really feel the effects, taking it in the morning and at night, and it's incredible. And the two go together, so we have a special we're running right now at InfoWarsStore.com. Brain Force Plus and Real Red Pill Mind and Body Challenge Pack, 50% off. Go read what's in Brain Force. Go read what's in the Real Red Pill and find out about it all. Also, it's going to be called DNA Force Plus when it comes in about a month, with the Bio-PQQ, the CoQ10, and all the other key cofactors, super strong. We're gonna call it well, Dr. Group was putting out a DNA Force that was great and was very strong, but then I got a bigger national manufacturer to put it out. I don't want to step on his toes, so I called it Cell Force. But then he said, hey, I don't care. This is a better formula. Call it DNA Force Plus. So when it comes back out, it's going to be called DNA Force Plus. But we have a few hundred bottles left of the Cell Force under that name, 50% off. You cannot get a better deal on that for your mitochondria, for your telomeres, all of it. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. But that's going to sell out in a matter of days at that price. We'll be back. All right, folks, thank you for joining us on radio. TV viewers are watching us on stations across the country and InfoWars.com/show. I don't need to impress on listeners and viewers that I've got a broken headpiece and I can't hear it all now. So when I get another one, we'll get Ben Garrison on. Now, that said, there is so much going on in this world. There is so much happening. And we're in the fight for our lives right now. That's what this comes down to. And I'm just going to give the floor to Ben Garrison here, who is probably the top, I don't want to brag, but I think he probably is the top graphic artist, political artist in the country, in the world right now. And you see his work everywhere on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I want to ask him how he's been censored. So everybody who's pro-America, pro-free market's being censored. I know that, you know, he's had all sorts of threats, you name it. But then I want to get his political view, not just, you know, his great political view on paper with pen and ink, but just his great points about what's happening in the world. So, my friend, you go ahead and take over here and give us your view on where you think the state of the republic is. The Supreme Court justice coming out saying that they're going to confiscate the firearms. I mean, now they're being so honest about it. What would you call this period in history we're in right now?
I kind of see it as a spinning top, and it's starting to wobble. I mean, a lot of people thought it would collapse a long time ago. I mean, G. Edward Griffin thought it would all collapse in the late 80s. And they keep kicking that can down the road, and I keep expecting it to get more and more destabilized. And now we're beginning to see it because they're really driving hard to the hoop to take our guns. And if they get the guns, then you might as well kiss all the rest of our Bill of Rights away too, because if that goes, all the pillars will collapse. If you see the Second Amendment as a pillar and they take that pillar out, the rest of the pillars are going to collapse. That's a good cartoon right there. I should draw that. The thing I'm seeing here, Alex, and you've mentioned this before, but I've really become sensitized to this two-word phrase used by the left, progressives, the Democrats, and even some conservatives. This two-word phrase is our democracy. And every time I hear it, I get angry because we're not a democracy, we're a republic. Now, you most recently heard it from that little twerp named Hogg, and he said that the old folks like me, we don't understand how to run a democracy. Well, obviously, we're not a democracy, and he never learned this fact. We're a republic. And there's a big difference between a republic and a democracy. And a lot of young people don't know the difference because 50% of them want socialism. And Karl Marx says a democracy is a good thing because it's on the road to socialism. And that's what they're all after. And so the first step of getting us onto the road of socialism was the Federal Reserve in 1913, and then making us pay a graduated income tax. So all of their pieces are falling into place, and now they really want those guns.
Ben, what do you think about Trump? Some people say he's starting to go sideways. All I know is people use that as an excuse to not be politically active themselves. I mean, I'm not here to defend Trump. All I know is that it's like the forces of Mordor have marched out of hell.
Yeah, well, first of all, it wasn't a budget. It was a bill, an omnibus bill. And we must remember that even under Obama, there was no budget. The Congress is incapable of passing a budget anymore. So they pack everything into a bill, and like Obama signed it, and that's why the debt doubled under his reign. Now, when I first started supporting Trump, I drew a cartoon of him pulling the plug on the swamp. And I had a big, giant, looming Trump yanking out the plug, and I had all those vile characters swirling down the drain. But then after he's elected, I realized that I'll have to draw something to illustrate the swamp a little better than that, because the swamp is much vaster and deeper than even I had realized. So Trump has only been in office, he's only been in office 2 years, and he's dealing with this deep state swamp and the shadow government, and it's not going to be drained instantly. Let's face it, this swamp has been building up since Eisenhower warned us about the deep state, 60 years ago, more than that. So, and Kennedy tried to fight against the deep state swamp, and they whacked him. So, over a period of time, this swamp has just grown immense, and it's not going to be solved with a snap of the fingers, and I think Trump is starting to realize that. So at the very least, what he's doing, I think, is he's going to try to divert some of these military funds into building a wall, and what I hope is a military tribunal, because our republic demands, our republic is not, this is not a democracy. Our republic is based on law. It's not based on men and their capriciousness. It's based on law, which should be equally applied to everyone. And that most critical person that it should be applied to, in my opinion, is Hillary Clinton, and she really needs to be locked up. So if we can, that's because she's almost becoming a symbol now. And if you can't lock her up, then you know that the deep state swamp is still in charge. So I still support Trump. Let me put it this way. I've got more patience because I'm an old guy and I see how fast time goes by. I mean, the bird of time is on the wing and it has about a little way to fly, and you realize how fast life goes by and how quickly time goes by. We haven't given Trump enough time to really prove himself. Now, if he doesn't get some more accomplishments done over the his first 4 years, then yeah, maybe we should consider somebody like Rand Paul. I don't know, but we got to give him a chance still. I mean, I don't like that bill, or the omnibus bill any more than anybody else. And a matter of fact, my wife Tina just drew a cartoon on this matter, and it's on our site now. And I should mention that she's going to be drawing her own cartoon every Tuesday. It's called Tina Tuesday. And as far as I know, Alex, we're the only man and wife conservative cartoonist team in history to team up and start drawing these cartoons. Now, being a conservative cartoonist these days is rare enough, but then having a female conservative cartoonist, that's extremely rare. But then when you team it up with a man and a wife team, I've never heard of that in history. So we hope we can make a little bit of history.
How many cartoons have you put out over the years?
Oh, hundreds. I haven't kept track of them, but we're trying to draw more. And fortunately, we're able to get some support now. And I couldn't do it without the help of my supporters. I just couldn't. And I couldn't especially do it without the help of Tina. And Tina is teamed up with an animator in Montreal, and his name is Paco Labelle. And this man he's a Renaissance man. He can do anything. And he started animating my cartoons, and I looked at these things and, wow, these are better than the originals. And so we've got to deal with him, and he's going to continue to do those animations, and we've got a link to it on our site. And Tina will continue to draw her cartoons. It'll be called Tina Tuesday. So every Tuesday you get to see her work, and it's a lot of fun to do, and it's something that I hope has a small modicum effect on people's minds.
Man, you're doing a great job. Let's take phone calls and cover the waterfront of news with Ben Garrison. Straight ahead, I'm Alex Jones, newswars.com. Stay with us. You know, when I get up here and I say I'm upset about the globalists and all the stuff they're doing, it's true. I'm going to be honest with you. I wish I was a sociopath. I wish I was a psychopath sometimes. I wish I didn't care, because knowing how evil George Soros is, knowing how fake the gun march is, knowing how evil CNN is, knowing how the communist Chinese have murdered 80+ million of their own people and are taking over and own Hollywood and UT, and it's all over the news, and it's total authoritarianism. If I saw my neighbor's house getting broken into by a criminal, I would get upset about it. It's our whole world. We know socialism is a nightmare. We know globalism is a system of total control. We know. I remember 20 years ago, I went to a smart growth conference where they were stealing all these farmers and ranchers' land all around Austin. They built mansions all over it now. And I learned it was this UN Agenda 21 scam for developers to take land off use, increase the price of their land, and later take the restrictions off. And I remember going to this brand new convention center downtown, and they had former Dallas Cowboys there and all these movie stars. And I remember going up and saying, hey, it's a scam. They're taking farmers' land. And I remember I didn't have my camera on. Back then it was a big camera. And this Dallas Cowboy goes, get out of my way before I kick your ass. Of course it's a scam, you schmuck. And they were all laughing and rubbing their hands together, and it was the big banks. And I was sitting there watching. It was like being in an old Western or a Louis L'Amour book, you know, where the railroad comes in to steal folks' land. But it was going on, and then I'm the schmuck. I'm the weirdo. I'm the bad guy because I don't want to screw people, and I'm not even a perfect person. And then they make me so mad that I am miserable. I'm a miserable person. I don't enjoy cars, food, nothing anymore. My children's the only thing. And the state's tried to take those, and I'm not bitching and complaining. But all that's left is the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, and not letting these people rule our lives. That's all I got left now. And I'm empowered. I'm not complaining. But I don't know how to get out of this mode of just detesting these people and the AstroTurf. And I guess it's cathartic to do a cartoon or do a video. That's what makes me feel better, is to expose them and to see them. But let me ask you this question, Ben Garrison of graphics.com. How do you deal with this? Because you seem positive. You seem like a good guy when I've talked to you on and off air. How do you deal with being censored, being attacked? 'Cause we're not feeling sorry for ourselves, but I'm kind of pissed. Because this isn't like a football game where we're just playing the other team and they're okay guys. The globalists are real authoritarians. I mean, they're the grandchildren of the Stalinist situation. They're the grandchildren of Hitler. They're the ideological children of this, and they know it, and they're bad. And I'm tired of letting them run around and say they want to kill us, and their intimidation, and their crap. I want to sweep them. Do you get where I'm going? Then we're going to go to phone calls.
What? Are you talking to me?
I'm asking you, what do we do? I mean, do you get what I'm saying? Do you ever feel they're evil? Or do you ever get sick of engaging them? Do you ever just wish you were on another planet away from these people? Have you gone to a leftist rally? They look like a bunch of dead people. Like their souls have been sucked out. Like, what the hell? I don't even hate them. They're just like moron, loser zombies. What do we do?
Well, we saw George Soros's AstroTurf March. And this ties into what I was saying about how they want a democracy, because a democracy is the road to socialism. They want to control, first of all, that's part of the Agenda 21. They want to put everybody in cities. Remember how Hillary's bragging how she got all the big cities voted for her? Because it's easier to control the mob mind. All a tyrant needs to do is control the mobs and promise them free stuff, and then they're going to get the votes, and then they go to government and make government even bigger and more tyrannical, and take away freedoms and liberties, and that's what's going on right now. But
exactly. But do you ever get like a suffocation feeling? Like, I mean, it's like being underwater. Like, get off my back, leap. While there's always parasites trying to run our lives. How do you deal with that?
Well, I express my anger through cartoons, and I first got very angry when the banks got bailed out in 2008, when Hank Paulson went to Congress, threatened Congress. He should have been arrested right on the spot.
He said there'll be blood in the streets, tanks on the ground, martial law if you don't give me the money.
And when nothing happened, and instead they gave a gigantic bonus to all the bankers. First and foremost, they got their bonus for being criminals, for peddling fraudulent derivatives to real estate. It's real estate derivative fraud. But instead they got rewarded. And so here I saw criminals getting not punished, but rewarded. So the only thing I could do was to, well, I'm going to draw some protest cartoons, not knowing where it would lead. I would be happy if maybe, a half dozen or a dozen people saw my cartoon. And now it's morphed into this. But this also, I also enjoy. There came a point where I was attacked so virulently and so incessantly for every day, and I got an avalanche of hate mail, and I got trolled terribly. I mean, I had to leave the art gallery I was in because the trolls attacked the owner of the art gallery I was in. So I was like at a moment where I'm going to have to give up drawing the cartoons, and I was like white hot mad all the time. But, I remember something you said a long time ago, that you enjoyed getting trolled and you laughed about it. And I'm at that state now. And as a matter of fact, there's some guy who wrote and said, if I could throw the entire earth into the sun just to get at Garrison, I'd do it. So I realize I'm really making these liberals mad, and that makes me happy.
No, I agree. I agree. But that's the average idiot liberal. And I've been positive, and I don't mind being attacked and trolled. But now realizing that the globalists are as evil as we thought, and that people don't wake up to it quicker, it's very frustrating, because it's their own best interest, Ben, to wake up.
They are waking up. Thanks a large part to you. Remember how, when I started, I was getting all kinds, you're a conspiracy theory, you're a nut, you got tinfoil hat. Well, now it's no longer a conspiracy theory. It's just a conspiracy, and we see it, and they're out in the open. And more people are waking up. And that's why they're so angry that Trump went along with this omnibus bill. So
I was about to say, I mean, I'm just saying this on air. I'm really upset off air as well, and I'm trying to be positive. And I'm usually somebody that's very upbeat, and there's a lot of positive things. I can just feel the energy of the globalists right now is so evil. That's it. They're getting ready to do something big. My gut tells me all hell's about to break loose, Ben, and my gut's never wrong. So I'm kind of psychoanalyzing why I'm so upset. But can't you feel the rumblings of the big storm coming? I mean, at a gut level.
Well, that's what I said about the top. How the top is spinning and it's real smooth, and now it's starting to wobble. I'm sensing a big wobble now, and something's going to happen. Something's going to transpire fairly quickly. And
And I'm mad at myself that I'm not strong enough in figuring out ways to do this. That's why seeing your cartoons, some of them that really are perfection, they're all excellent, but some of them are like, couldn't be better. Like, you know when something's basically perfection. You look at it, you're like, that's perfection. And that's why you being there makes me feel good. I don't know how to explain that. It's just these people make me sick. That's all I'm saying.
Them all together. I mean, if you listen to, say, someone like Stefan Molyneux, now he employs logic, reason, and evidence in his arguments. A cartoon is not really a logical argument.
It's archetypes.
Because it employs it utilizes a lot of irrationality. I mean, if you see the lefty cartoons, I mean, they almost always use a straw man fallacy argument or ad hominem or appeal to emotion. It's all argumentative fallacy. But a good cartoon that uses satire, and by the way, I'm not funny. I'm not a comedian. I don't, a lot of people tell me I'm not funny. Well, that's fine.
No, you're illustrating basic truths in a archetypal way.
To wake up and I'm not there to give them a chuckle. Although sometimes my cartoons can be funny, but that's a byproduct of the satire.
No, let's put your Four Horsemen up there. It's not funny that Fukushima's dumping out death and the vaccines are killing people and the globalists are fomenting all this war and funding the jihadis and Al Gore wants you to pay me on his little pink horse. That is a perfect cartoon. The new Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, that is Veritas. That cartoon is as good as you can get. And it gives me solace. You know what? I need to go ahead and just raise the alarm for listeners and viewers. I've looked at the globalists. I've looked at how they operate. I'm seeing the stuff they're doing. Admitting they want to ban the Second Amendment and kill gun owners and all this stuff on the news. They're getting ready to pull something big. I think a giant false flag, a new war. Just every gut level I've got is I'm just horrified, but not in a fearful way right now. I'm horrified, but like in a way like I'm ready for war. Like I've never been, my spider sense has never been this ramped up. And you got the Chinese dictator threatening bloody battle against the U.S. You got all this fake stuff being done to Russia because they're Christian. Ben Garrison's our guest, and I apologize. I'm going to your calls right now. I'm a bad person. Ben Garrison riding a shotgun with us. Let's go ahead. Who's been holding the longest here? Let's go to Ron in Texas, then Danny. Ron, thanks for holding. You're a real trooper, brother. I appreciate you. You're on the air with the greatest. I mean, just by the number of people that watch his stuff, he is the greatest living editorial cartoonist. And he's a patriot. Of course, the greatest is a patriot. Ben Garrison, go ahead. You're on the air, Ron. Maybe Ron didn't want to hold that long. Well, I understand how that is, Ron. I get it. Let's go to another caller. Let's talk to Danny. Danny in Virginia. Danny in Virginia, you're on the air with Ben Garrison. Go ahead.
Alex, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, sir. Thank you for calling.
It's a great honor to talk to you.
It's an honor to talk to you. Go ahead.
Right in the pre-9/11 situation. I think the deep state's about to attack schools with false flag attacks, and they don't want teachers there to interrupt.
Well, I agree. Listeners know this, that I'm not really metaphysical, but my gut's always right. I realize, why am I freaking out today and last night at home? I sense something, not just their actions. I'm serious. I don't want to sound like Darth Vader or Obi-Wan Kenobi in episode 4, but I feel a disturbance in the force. The last time I felt it was right before 9/11. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you can't tell a teacher that has a gun concealed carry in a school that he has to stand down, but you can tell the school resource officer he has to, or you can count on him to be a coward, or you can, give notification.
Another Democratic Party dirtbag in another blue cesspit city standing down yet again.
And I think the stand down at Parkland actually started before the attack. I think.
They knew he was going to attack. He said he was, exactly.
Right. But when he called the Uber guy to come pick him up, the resource officer at the school should have been notified that the kid that had been expelled from that school was now going to go to that school.
That's right. He was banned. Oh, it's incredible. They totally stood down. And no wonder they said that we said it was all staged, because evidence begins to mount in that direction. And then they didn't even want us to go there early on before they launched the big national movement. Stay there, Danny. But I mean, Ben Garrison, I'm not saying people didn't get shot. I'm not saying they're crisis actors. They said we said that. But when you look at the stand down, isn't that the news issue? Not blaming gun owners? Shouldn't we be pissed that as a constitutional right, we are collectively being blamed for dead kids by George Soros?
Yeah, well, you know, these school shootings, a lot of them, there's something suspicious behind, there's suspicious things going behind every one of them. But we're not even allowed to question that anymore. If you question it, oh, well, you're going to get banned because, you know, there's children who died and you're questioning this, oh, you're banned. You get kicked off of YouTube. I mean,
and all we're doing is trying to protect them.
Well, we saw what happened to James Tracy, who pointed out some weird anomalies going on with Sandy Hook. And he got on, what's that big leprechaun's name? Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah.
And Bill O'Reilly just eviscerated him on air and yelled at him at the top of his lungs. And then James Tracy gets fired from his university, and then his home gets broken into, and they steal all his equipment.
And then he gets sued.
And yes. And so, boy, just for questioning it, so that they don't want you to question these, what I think a lot of them are heavy indications of false flag. So these are kind of helped to be set up in order to reinforce their narrative that we have to give up our guns. Well,
let me just tell you. I've been told by Army Special Operations, the CIA, the Justice Department, the FBI, Alex, you're not going far enough. Parkland is fake. And they go, we can't get into it. It's classified, but you need to look into this. And I mean, this is like real phone calls with Army generals and stuff. This is not like me just saying this on air. And that's why they're so scared of this broadcast. So I didn't even think it was fake. And then they flipped out and said that I said it was fake, Ben, because they didn't even want anybody looking at it. Exactly. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, the corporate media really losing control of the narrative to people, truth tellers and citizen journalists online are telling the truth. And they can't have that. So we have to be just summarily kicked off of Google and Twitter. I'm kind of surprised I'm lasted as long as I have. But some people tell me, well, you just haven't gotten fully ripe yet. They're going to kick you off.
But man, they can't get you because you create an image that everybody all the time. I see like your Twitter hardly has any followers, and then I'll see just every 10 minutes, like 300,000 shares, 200,000 shares, you know, just your stuff is like the most viral thing, but then no one goes back to where it actually comes from because they clearly have shadow banned you where you can't share on your Twitter and no one sees it. But it doesn't matter. Key people go there to get the seeds. You see what I'm saying?
Well, you know, I once read something by an editorial page editor, Alex, and he says, well, people always read the lead editorial first. No, they look at the cartoon first because a cartoon combines the rational and irrational. And what that does is that provides meaning. There's a lot of meaning in a cartoon that people can glean.
And it picks up the spirit of the moment. You're absolutely right. But by the way, go ahead.
Crystallizes a point. That and people are longing for meaning. I mean, that's why we artists and musicians can be very effective in this battle.
Well, that's it. I mean, they're looking for the human, and nothing like the hand-drawn things. That's the human. That before literature, before there was even letters, before there were numbers, there was art. You're absolutely right. Cave drawings. Danny, great points. Thank you. That's how great a caller is. I got to take more calls. They're so smart. Let's go ahead and take another call here. Let's talk to Caleb. We'll talk about life after the Second Amendment. When you're talking about North Korea, go ahead.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Ben. Basically, I'm kind of at where you're talking about, man. You know, what do we do? You know, what's the plan?
Well, let me ask you this. In your gut, I've never felt not even dread. Like, I feel like war. I mean, I've never felt like this. I don't mean like aggressive war. I mean, I'm like on fire, like it's on, like the sword of Goblin Cleaver, Sting. I mean, I feel it. Do you feel the evil coming in?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like that's like I was thinking it's kind of like in South Africa. You know, it's not so much we want to go on the offense, but we want to be prepared, like sideliners. You know, I don't know if I said that right, but what. Is there anything like that for us here? Is it the NRA?
Talking about Southlanders. Yeah, we need civil defense of every race, color, and creed. As Americans, we need to launch a civil, not the militia, even though it's in the Constitution, but civil defense for every race, color, and creed that want to defend Americana and capitalism and realize society's crumbling by design, and that those of us that are free market, we need to come together. That's a great point, Ben Garrison.
Comes to a point, Alex, where we just have to put our foot down. They're not getting my guns. They're just not. I mean, you know, I'm an old guy and I got nothing to lose. And so
what do you make of all the people at the march and the sheriffs and saying they're going to kill us? I mean, they're like, yeah, you're not going to turn it in. We're going to come kill you. That's the new thing.
Well, look what happened to 1.5 million Armenians when they gave up their guns to the Turkish government. They all got wiped out, didn't they? I mean, look at Mexico. They got some pretty stringent gun control laws down there, and they got the highest gun murder rate in the Western Hemisphere.
They did. Brazil just topped them, but Brazil's about to pass the Second Amendment. Did you know that?
But compare that to Switzerland. 1 in 2 people have guns, and they got the lowest gun crime rate there.
I know. So, we have the facts. Caleb, anything else?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that's my question to you, Alex. I mean, I don't know if that's something that you can find and give us later. I know you probably need to go to break here soon or something, but where do we go? You know,
I think the problem is we start civil defense, they infiltrate it with racists or others to discredit it. I think just everybody with their friends and family and neighbors reaches out. I think we need to, if you're white, you need to reach out to folks that aren't white. People that aren't white need to reach out to folks that are white. You know, my office is very diverse. Liberal media comes here and can't believe it's more diverse than liberal. I just hire people that are competent. I don't care what color you are. I care what color your blood is, as long as it's red and you want freedom. But I think it comes down to we just all have to gear up and get together, and everybody has to realize we may not beat this. It may totally implode. We need to, I think 80% try to fix things, but 20% more and more my gut is I need to be digging in for my children because, man, you look at these communists marching around and George Soros, I mean, he shouldn't be walking around, man, a Nazi collaborator, and it just makes my head spin. Ben Garrison's our guest. A little bit more. Paul Watson's coming up. 4th hour, more calls straight ahead with Ben Garrison. Infowars.com, newswars.com. Be sure and follow Ben Garrison on Twitter. Ben Garrison's our guest. I got pretty wound up today on air, and everybody knows that been behind the scenes. That's not an act with me. I've studied history, so I know real authoritarianism when I see it. And I see the globalists that run our country allied with communist China. They're totally ruthless. And all of you that are siding with Hollywood, mainstream media, I don't even hate you. I hate the controllers. I am frustrated that I'm not smart enough, that's it, to save you. And I don't mean that as some goody two-shoes thing, you know, some savior complex. I mean, I need to save you to get my family out of this. See, I think of you as myself because I know we're all interconnected. And Ben Garrison, top editorial cartoonist in the world. And it really is true. You know, you don't want to say that till you realize it. He's here with us. And we're taking some phone calls. Paul Watson's about to take over. We're going to go to Pennsylvania. We're going to talk to Holly, who's been holding very patiently about the omnibus. As Garrison said, he's right. It's not a budget. That's for the year. It's one of 12 bills a year when they combine them for spending. Everybody got on my ass about. I love the audience is so informed. I said, it's just, Holly, you're on the air with Ben Garrison. Go ahead.
Hi, Ben. Hi, Alex. Thanks for taking my call. But real quick, how about a bumper sticker that says gun-free zones are where the shootings happen?
Well, that's totally true. I mean, there are some good public schools in this country with some good people at them, but if they're blue city areas, the police always stand down. Why would you send your child to the only place they statistically might get killed by a lunatic because the media advertises that's where a lunatic goes? Ben Garrison.
Yeah, isn't that the case? You know, I've noticed another thing you mentioned about Hollywood is that you watch these movies and you see them, if somebody brings out a gun, oh, do you have a permit for that? And I always think the perfect line is, yes, my permit is the Second Amendment. There's nothing, they've demonized these guns. And boy, you watch Bill Maher, I watch him every week because I like to see what the enemies are doing. He's really pushing this idea that gun ownership should be a privilege. Now, if they ever do that, where they make gun ownership a privilege, you might as well kiss your guns goodbye because they'll make the permit process and the testing so elaborate and impossible, the fees, the fines.
It'll be like New York City where only basically the mafia and a few thousand have it. Well, exactly. I watched Bill Maher 2 weeks ago when I was in Colorado, just happened to catch it. He's like, it's time to repeal the Second Amendment. Well, that's what the Supreme Court Justice came out and said. I mean, don't they get that we've been warning people forever and they were denying that, Ben?
They keep pushing gradually, but now they seem to be going all out, which is actually in a way is good, because that's all that's going to do is tighten our grip on our weapons are going to tighten the more they come out and say that. And so it's going to be, okay, well, let's get it on then. Come and try to take them, see what happens.
All right, Ben Garrison, we salute you. We appreciate you. People can go to grrgraphics.com. You're busy. I'm busy. We talked a year ago. I sell some of your books. I've got a whole plan to fund our operation and yours with limited edition prints. They're valuable to the audience. They become collectors. We need, you and I both are so busy, believe me. We need to get together. We need to launch a plan, and it's non-exclusive. You can do whatever, sell whatever you want anywhere else. I want to do a deal with you with your best prints so people can hang these in their shops, their businesses, their churches. It's absolutely amazing. So let's get on the phone today or tomorrow. Let's just have it happen, because I don't do it and then a year goes by. And let's do that, because we've all got to come together. The audience wants to support the economy of freedom, support free speech, and you're one of our leading voices, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Alex, can I make a quick shout out to my friend Corey Simpson in Seattle? He's your biggest fan, and he buys all your stuff. And he's really devoted to you. So I just had to mention his name.
Absolutely. God bless him. All right, I'll introduce Paul Watson. More calls straight ahead. Stay with us. We're back live. Paul Watson's riding shotgun. I'm getting out of here in a segment. We're taking calls with Paul. He's got a big guest coming up. Don't forget, Brain Force Plus is 50% off our best-selling product and free shipping. You can also get the Real Red Pill. It's got free shipping. Now, they're both 50% off, but you got to get them together to get the free shipping. You can get Red Pill, Real Red Pill. It's 50% off. You can get Brain Force 50% off, but get them together, free shipping. They go together. It takes about 7 days for the Red Pill to kick in. It takes about 30 minutes for Brain Force to kick in, but that is a huge discount. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, and you absolutely, by buying the products with us, have changed the whole game. They're panicking. They don't know what to do. InfoWarsStore.com. Paul, tell us what you got coming up today, my friend.
We've got Roaming Millennial coming up at the bottom of the hour, Alex, but before I get into that, I want to talk about this Second Amendment issue, because, you know, they got new polls out today which show that the lead that Democrats had for the House going into the midterms, it was 15 points back in October. Everybody's been saying for months the Republicans are going to get an absolute shellacking. They're going to lose the House. Now, the polls say that lead is down to 5 points, almost within the margin of error. And typically in the past, if Democrats are slightly ahead in the polls, they've lost the House. So they have to be way ahead to win it. That's all, Alex, taken place over the last couple of months or so, especially in the last month. And I think it's related to this Second Amendment issue, okay? The March for Our Lives, as we know, was basically a recruitment voter drive for Democrats. You know, less than 10% of the attendees were kids. They're doing it to recruit voters. They don't care about gun violence. I mean, it would be naive to think that they do. It's all about power, okay? So that's why they're doing it. But again, this Second Amendment issue is so toxic. They're not going to get significant gun control through this year. Maybe they'll get it next year if they get the House, but they're not going to get it this year. What single issue, Alex, would get Republicans out to vote in the midterms above all others? What fear would get them out to vote? Well, it would be the confiscation of their firearms. This is backfiring. It's backfiring big time, especially now that we see the true face of it with this call. You know, you saw the protest signs on Saturday. Ban all guns. We're going to take them from your cold, dead hands. You've got the New York Times editorial today, op-ed, repeal the Second Amendment. This is going to backfire. This is working in our favor because it might get Republicans out to vote. It might give them an issue, you know, a point on which to vote, which they don't have right now. This is going to backfire, and the polls suggest that it already is. So far from being worried about this, we should be supporting the Parkland students. We should be encouraging them to continue getting up on national media platforms, calling for all guns to be banned, doing it in the kind of vulgar language that we've seen from David Hogg recently, because it's not good PR. It's blowing up in their faces, and the polls are beginning to show that. Trump's approval's up again as well, by the way, on a CNN poll. So I think we really need to support the Parkland students. We need to amplify those who are calling for a repeal of the Second Amendment, because tactically, it's going to work in our favor.
Paul, I know Gallup, I know the other major polls generally sample 9 to 15 points more Democrat. They claim there's more Democrats. That's not really true. And we saw that during the presidential campaign, and they admitted that it was fake and that Trump was actually generally about 5-10 points ahead. The problem is, I'm looking at their actions and the way they're behaving. They know short term this is going to hurt them. I think they're winding up jihadi attacks. I think they know about other mental patients that are going to attack. Broward cowards stood down. We believe the attack happened, but they stood down. And I think just like Vegas was tied to jihadis, that's now been confirmed. And we now have the Pulse nightclub father and son reportedly being FBI informants. We first broke that back when it happened. I think they've got some crazies they're watching that they know are getting ready to do something big that they're going to let attack. And they've set this precedent saying never again, not one more. I agree, the Stormy Daniels thing about consensual sex 11 years ago and him treating her great and then talking about not wearing a condom is so humiliating. How could you not feel sorry for the president who never claimed he was a goody two-shoes? It's like breaking into somebody's bedroom. It's pure harassment. It's stalking. So, yeah, that's got him even in CNN polls that sample 20-something% more Democrat. It's got him up, 5, 6, 7 points. Same thing with Gallup. Same thing with Mason-Dixon. Same thing with, all of these. I'm just saying, I don't think we can be too confident, though, because Soros has successfully overthrown dozens of countries, including Ukraine 4 years ago, and they've got a plan. I agree they're arrogant. Why would you have Tar go on, and say, we're going to give us an inch, we'll take you a mile? Why would you have the former Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens say, repeal the Second Amendment, mass gun confiscation? Why would you have Democrats say, we don't care, don't turn your guns in, we'll kill you? I'm going to ask you that question in a moment and let you take over with all the great job you're doing. Paul Watson at Prison Planet on Twitter, one of the hottest Twitter accounts out there, despite the censorship. But let's go to Tar admitting Saturday their game plan.
There are so very many things, so many steps to take. Like right now, sign our petition. It takes 2 seconds, and it matters. We will take the big, and we will take the small, but we will keep fighting. When they give us that inch, that bump stock ban, we will take a mile. We are not here for breadcrumbs. We are here for real change.
But, again, she's up there. The very same group that funded Madonna to be there a year before the Women's March is funding this. Total AstroTurf. They tried to ban us from criticizing them a month ago, saying they were AstroTurf. Now it's all admitted, private jets, money, everything, Paul. What is their ace in the hole? Or are they just crazy and think they can finally announce we're coming to take your guns? What type of strategy is that? Because Bill Maher said ban them 2 weeks ago. The New York Times said it, CNN. They're now, as a talking point, saying, fine, we're taking everything. Do they think psychologically we'll go, okay, just take the semi-autos? Do they, because we get the formula worldwide from where you live to Australia was to first ban the semi-autos, then ban people up to 21, and then register. I mean, we know the formula, Paul.
Well, I've seen other activists, prominent people within this March for Our Lives movement saying to these others who are saying, yeah, let's just take all the guns. We'll take it from your cold, dead hands. We saw the protest signs as well, saying basically we're going to do it violently. They're saying, no, what are you doing? Stop saying that. Stop admitting that this is the true agenda, because that's going to cause a massive resentment, a massive revolt amongst Republicans, and they'll go out and vote in these midterms. These polls, they've gone from 15 points Democrats in front. Everyone was pessimistic. It was a lost cause. Now it's down to a 5-point lead. It's almost within the margin of error. And it's happened while this gun control narrative has built up. So you've got people within that movement saying, what on earth are you doing? Saying we're going to take all the guns.
Exactly.
If you give us an inch, we'll take a mile. What are you doing? So I think it's a massive strategic error. Also, the other factor that I've pointed to is never in this discussion of, oh, we're going to confiscate all the guns, we're going to repeal the Second Amendment, is the question of, what consequences are you going to see if you take 300 million guns from roughly 70 million American gun owners? Even if, Alex, 1% of those people resisted, and the media is going to be all like, oh, you're calling for civil war. No, we're asking, what will the potential consequences be if you have police or whoever, military, confiscating millions and millions of guns from people who don't want to give them up? That question is never asked. It's never part of this narrative. So that's another issue. But I think it's a massive strategic error on their part. We've seen the true the teeth of this movement.
No, I totally agree. So then why is Trump paying it lip service and finally starting to go sideways here?
Well, why did he sign the omnibus bill? It's the same thing. The base needs to hold his feet to the fire. We've done it before with Syria, where that was a mistake, and then they backtracked from it. It hasn't happened since. So don't give them that inch in the first place. That's one thing we can do, put pressure on Trump. But also,
absolutely,
Alex, don't interrupt the enemy when it's making a mistake. They're making a huge mistake right now. Let's give them a platform to keep saying the same thing, because it's working against their favor politically right now and in the polls.
That's right. Trump is a populist, a free market, classic America, but really kind of a libertarian liberal. He was anti-war. He is kind of a liberal, but in a good way. And so his wife and his daughters are telling him do the gun control, and it's horrible advice, Trump. It's terrible advice. All right, I'm sorry the other callers were out of time. Paul's taking over. Chris and everybody else, we love you. Put them all on hold. Give them a free T-shirt, whatever they want. They're awesome. InfoWarsStore.com. Great job to the crew, by the way. And the War Room's coming up in 45 minutes. But first, Paul Joseph Watson. Spread the live links right now. We're changing history.
We're live. It is the fourth hour of the Alex Jones Show on this Tuesday, March 27th edition. Before I get back into the news, and by the way, we've got a guest coming up at the bottom of the hour. She is a YouTuber and commentator, roaming millennial, to talk about a number of different subjects, so be sure to stay tuned for that. First, I want to tell you about this great special we have at InfoWarsStore.com, because we need your support more than ever. It is Brain Force Plus and the Real Red Pill Mind and Body Challenge Pack for 50% off in store for a limited time only. This is the powerful combo pack to help you boost your mind and body to their limits. With the Brain Force Plus and Real Red Pill Mind and Body Challenge Pack, 50% off. That is a massive, massive discount. It's got an average 4.7 out of 5 rating. Of course, Brain Force is the nootropic taken by all the whiz kids in Silicon Valley to help boost focus and cognitive concentration. I've taken it. I do take it. It's extremely good. It works. They get very triggered when I talk about it, like it's some alien potion that we got from Mars or whatever. No, this is completely conventional. It's called nootropics. Google it. Everybody in Silicon Valley's taking it. We've got our own special blend. It is Brain Force Plus to supercharge your state of mind. We've combined it with the Real Red Pill, which supports healthy aging and cognitive function. And that is a massive discount, 50% off that combo pack right now. For the Real Red Pill and Brain Force, it is the Mind and Body Challenge Pack, 50% off in store at InfoWarsStore.com. Please get it today. Please support this network. Now, we've got about 5-6 minutes left here. I want to talk about these polls that have come out over the past day or so, because as I said when I was on with Alex, the narrative of this gun control issue, which of course came to a head with Saturday's March for Our Lives rally, which was basically a Democratic recruitment voter drive. Less than 10% of the attendees were children. As that's come to the fore, the polls in the House race for the Congress in the midterms have narrowed. Back in October, the Democrats had a 15-point lead. I mean, you've been hearing this narrative for months. Republicans basically written off the House completely, many of them. They had a 15-point lead in October. Look what's happened now. Headline, Republicans gaining ground in midterm election polls. This is out of Breitbart. Now, Fox News did a generic congressional poll, again back in October, which gave Democrats a 15-point lead. They were ahead 50-35. Now, Fox News has done another poll, and it gives Democrats only a 5-point lead, 46-41. Now, that's even takes on even more importance, given that Dems being ahead or slightly ahead by 4 or 5 points usually translates into Democrats losing the House. So they have to be massively ahead in history to take the House. In the past several elections, midterm elections, they've been ahead and they've still lost. If you look at 2014, the Democrats held a 2-point lead and Republicans gained 13 seats. In 2010, Republicans held a 4-point lead and picked up a historic 63 seats in the House to retake control of the chamber. So again, Dems need to be way ahead in these polls for it to translate into capturing the House. They're only 5 points ahead. In October, they were 15 points ahead. That has shrunk to 5. Why? I reckon one of the issues is this gun control issue. I mean, Republicans have basically got no real motivating reason to get out and vote in the midterms in November. Democrats have got the whole anti-Trump thing. They're trying to make it a referendum on Trump. That will only go so far. But you saw from the rally, even though they got way less people than expected, they can energize people. They can get people out politically. It was a huge voter recruitment drive. But this gun control debate is toxic. It's always proven toxic politically in the past, which is why many Democrats are insisting that it should be dropped as a central campaign issue going into the midterms, because they're not going to get serious gun control measures through if they don't have the House. Nothing's going to happen this year. I mean, even after Sandy Hook, gun control laws got weaker, not stronger. So it's extremely difficult to get them through in any environment. So a lot of Democrats now, a lot of people within this movement are saying, look, let's not betray our true intentions, which is another thing that they're doing. They're saying, they're coming out and saying with the protest signs, with the, you know, take an inch, they'll give us a mile speech, which we played earlier, ban all the guns. New York Times op-ed today, repeal the Second Amendment. They can't help but betray their true motives. And many on the inside, in terms of Democratic Party strategists, are saying, what on earth are you doing? We've seen the anecdotal evidence from gun stores. People buying more AR-15s, people buying more guns. When Trump got in, gun sales slumped. They plummeted because people thought their rights were not under threat. Now they think that right is under threat once again, and it could make Republicans come out in significant numbers in November. So this is a losing issue for Democrats. Why interrupt the enemy when they're making a mistake? We should be amplifying calls for the Second Amendment to repeal. We should be supporting the Parkland students and their media crusade against the right to bear arms, because it's a colossal election mistake. And these polls are starting to prove that true. Again, 15 points ahead back in October. That lead, according to the latest Fox News poll for the House in the midterm election, has narrowed to just 5 points off of the back of a solid month of gun control narrative from the media. If Republicans think there's any chance that Democrats will capture the House, which obviously there's a big chance they will, but that they will pass significant gun control measures, that is a rallying issue. That is a rallying cause to get them out to vote in November for the midterms. So this is a huge, huge positive if you're talking about the Republicans holding the House. If you're talking about the Democrats being unable to launch impeachment proceedings against Donald Trump, which they obviously will do, or they'll at least try to, if they capture the House. So again, don't argue with these Parkland students. Support them. Talk to them. Give them, amplify their message, because it's making a colossal mistake. I mean, even the kind of vulgar language that you saw from David Hogg over the past week or so, that's starting to turn people against this, even more so. And again, just the optics. This is something that Mike Cernovich was talking about earlier on his show. The optics of arguing with teenagers never looks good. Don't argue with them. Don't try and drag them down. Support them. Because the message that they're broadcasting is so divisive that it's going to rally Republicans to get out and vote in November. Another headline, CNN poll, Trump approval at 42%, up 7 since February. So even in CNN's skewed poll, he's at 42%. He's up 7 points since basically this whole gun control narrative started last month in February. I don't think that's a coincidence that his approval rating, even in CNN's poll, is up 7%. There's another poll. More Americans than ever see media as enemy of Trump. More Americans think that the media is trying to derail Trump's agenda now compared to this time last year. So all these polls are going in Trump's favor. It's no coincidence that it's happened since this gun control narrative has started. And this could be a huge rallying point to get Republicans out to make them vote in November. Don't interrupt the enemy when they're making a mistake. We'll be back with Roaming Millennial. This is the Alex Jones Show live, 4th hour. Don't go away. We're live. It is the 4th hour of the Alex Jones Show on this Tuesday, March 27th edition. Before I get back into the news, and by the way, we've got a guest coming up at the bottom of the hour. She is a YouTuber and commentator, Roaming Millennial, to talk about a number of different subjects, so be sure to stay tuned for that. First, I want to tell you about this great special we have at InfoWarsStore.com because we need your support more than ever. It is Brain Force Plus and the Real Red Pill Mind and Body Challenge Pack for 50% off in store for a limited time only. This is the powerful combo pack to help you boost your mind and body to their limits. With the Brain Force Plus and Real Red Pill Mind and Body Challenge Pack, 50% off. That is a massive, massive discount. It's got an average 4.7 out of 5 rating. Of course, Brain Force is the nootropic taken by all the whiz kids in Silicon Valley to help boost focus and cognitive concentration. I've taken it. I do take it. It's extremely good. It works. They get very triggered when I talk about it, like it's some alien potion that we got from Mars or whatever. No, this is completely conventional. It's called nootropics. Google it. Everybody in Silicon Valley's taking it. We've got our own special blend. It is Brain Force Plus to supercharge your state of mind. We've combined it with the Real Red Pill, which supports healthy aging and cognitive function. And that is a massive discount, 50% off that combo pack right now for the Real Red Pill and Brain Force. It is the Mind and Body Challenge Pack, 50% off in store at InfoWarsStore.com. Please get it today. Please support this network. Now, we've got about 5-6 minutes left here. I want to talk about these polls that have come out over the past day or so, because as I said when I was on with Alex, the narrative of this gun control issue, which of course came to a head with Saturday's March for Our Lives rally, which was basically a Democratic recruitment voter drive, less than 10% of the attendees were children. As that's come to the fore, the polls in the House race for the Congress in the midterms have narrowed. Back in October, the Democrats had a 15-point lead. I mean, you've been hearing this narrative for months. Republicans basically written off the House completely, many of them. They had a 15-point lead in October. Look what's happened now. Headline, Republicans gaining ground in midterm election polls. This is out of Breitbart. Now, Fox News did a generic congressional poll, again back in October, which gave Democrats a 15-point lead. They were ahead 50-35. Now, Fox News has done another poll, and it gives Democrats only a 5-point lead, 46-41. Now, that's takes on even more importance, given that Dems being ahead or slightly ahead by 4 or 5 points usually translates into Democrats losing the House. So they have to be massively ahead in history to take the House. In the past several elections, midterm elections, they've been ahead and they've still lost. If you look at 2014, the Democrats held a 2-point lead and Republicans gained 13 seats. In 2010, Republicans held a 4-point lead and picked up a historic 63 seats in the House to retake control of the chamber. So again, Dems need to be way ahead in these polls for it to translate into capturing the House. They're only 5 points ahead. In October, they were 15 points ahead. That has shrunk to 5. Why? I reckon one of the issues is this gun control issue. I mean, Republicans have basically got no real motivating reason to get out and vote in the midterms in November. Democrats have got the whole anti-Trump thing. They're trying to make it a referendum on Trump. That will only go so far. But you saw from the rally, even though they got way less people than expected, they can energize people. They can get people out politically. It was a huge voter recruitment drive. But this gun control debate is toxic. It's always proven toxic politically in the past, which is why many Democrats are insisting that it should be dropped as a central campaign issue going into the midterms, because they're not going to get serious gun control measures through if they don't have the House. Nothing's going to happen this year. I mean, even after Sandy Hook, gun control laws got weaker, not stronger. So it's extremely difficult to get them through in any environment. So a lot of Democrats now, a lot of people within this movement are saying, look, let's not betray our true intentions, which is another thing that they're doing. They're saying, they're coming out and saying with the protest signs, with the, take an inch, they'll give us a mile speech, which we played earlier, ban all the guns. New York Times op-ed today, repeal the Second Amendment. they can't help but betray their true motives. And many on the inside, in terms of Democratic Party strategists, are saying, what on earth are you doing? We've seen the anecdotal evidence from gun stores. People buying more AR-15s, people buying more guns. When Trump got in, gun sales slumped. They plummeted because people thought their rights were not under threat. Now they think that right is under threat once again, and it could make Republicans come out in significant numbers in November. So this is a losing issue for Democrats. Why interrupt the enemy when they're making a mistake? We should be amplifying calls for the Second Amendment to repeal. We should be supporting the Parkland students and their media crusade against the right to bear arms, because it's a colossal election mistake. And these polls are starting to prove that true. Again, 15 points ahead back in October. That lead, according to the latest Fox News poll for the House in the midterm election, has narrowed to just 5 points off of the back of a solid month of gun control narrative from the media. If Republicans think there's any chance that Democrats will capture the House, which obviously there's a big chance they will, but that they will pass significant gun control measures, that is a rallying issue. That is a rallying cause to get them out to vote in November for the midterms. So this is a huge, huge positive if you're talking about the Republicans holding the House. If you're talking about the Democrats being unable to launch impeachment proceedings against Donald Trump, which they obviously will do, or they'll at least try to, if they capture the House. So again, don't argue with these Parkland students. Support them. Talk to them. Give them, amplify their message, because it's making a colossal mistake. I mean, even the kind of vulgar language that you saw from David Hogg over the past week or so, that's starting to turn people against this even more so. And again, just the optics. This is something that Mike Cernovich was talking about earlier on his show. The optics of arguing with teenagers never looks good. Don't argue with them. Don't try and drag them down. Support them. Because the message that they're broadcasting is so divisive that it's going to rally Republicans to get out and vote in November. Another headline, CNN poll, Trump approval at 42%, up 7 since February. So even in CNN's skewed poll, he's at 42%. He's up 7 points since basically this whole gun control narrative started last month in February. I don't think that's a coincidence that his approval rating, even in CNN's poll, is up 7%. There's another poll. More Americans than ever see media as enemy of Trump. More Americans think that the media is trying to derail Trump's agenda now compared to this time last year. So all these polls are going in Trump's favor. It's no coincidence that it's happened since this gun control narrative has started. And this could be a huge rallying point to get Republicans out to make them vote in November. Don't interrupt the enemy when they're making a mistake. We'll be back with Roaming Millennial. This is the Alex Jones Show live, 4th hour. Don't go away. We are live. It is the 4th hour of the Alex Jones Show, and I'm delighted to be joined by my guest. She is known as Roaming Millennial. She is a YouTuber and host over at CRTV. You can find her on Twitter at Roaming Mill. Roaming, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, I want to get into gun control because we were talking about it. I was talking about it with Alex before the break. This March for Our Lives event over the weekend, obviously a big voter recruitment drive for Democrats. You know, less than 10% of the attendees are actually children. But we've seen polls over the past 48 hours which show this lead in terms of the House race for Congress in the midterms has narrowed to the point where the Democrats had a 15-point lead back in October to a 5-point lead now. I think this is going to backfire spectacularly, this gun control narrative, because it might force Republicans to rally and to get out and vote in the midterms, whereas before they had no real reason to do so. Obviously, the Democrats have this big anti-Trump narrative. That's their entire, they basically got no policy platform, but they're trying to make it a referendum against Trump. They're active. They've got people out. The Republicans don't really have that energy. They don't really have that momentum. But I think they're going to get it out of this insane crusade against the Second Amendment. Now we have the New York Times op-ed, repeal the Second Amendment. We got the protest signs, you know, at the event ban all guns. I think this is going to backfire massively against Democrats if they continue to follow this narrative over the course of the next 6-7 months. Do you agree?
I completely agree. And if you just look at what we saw happen after the CNN town hall event with Dana Lash, her getting berated, same thing with Marco Rubio, we've seen an increase, an exponential soar in the amount of people just Googling how to join the NRA, how to support the NRA. And you have people like me who have always been pro-Second Amendment, but have never really, I guess, taken this as one of their most important or most passionate issues. I joined the NRA after that interview thing because I just felt that I had no idea how anti-Second Amendment a lot of people were. And I think there's tons of people out there who are feeling the same way right now. Every time Democrats push for more gun control legislation, we see there's a rise in people buying guns because there actually is, I think, a legitimate fear among a lot of people that this is going to lead to more bans on things like AR-15s, the boogeyman that actually is no different than a lot of other regular rifles that I guess look less scary. But I think it is a dangerous thing for people on the left to be doing right now because gun owners are some of the most galvanized, most passionate voters in the U.S. So trying to target them so fiercely and trying to, I guess, demonize an organization that has around 5 million members in it is just not a good idea.
Yeah, and it's like, don't interrupt the enemy when they're making a mistake. It's like I've just said before the break, we should be supporting the Parkland students. We should be amplifying their voice when they get up and say ban all guns. You know, you probably saw the speech from one of them where she said, you know, we'll take an inch, then we'll take a mile regarding the bump stock ban. They're openly coming out and now saying, yes, of course the true agenda is to confiscate your guns, is to repeal the Second Amendment. I wouldn't interrupt them when they're making that mistake. Also, you know, Cernovich made this point earlier, don't argue with teenagers. It's like it's really bad optics to be arguing and pestering teenagers constantly. I think we should support them. I think that it's backfiring massively. And whereas conservative Republicans were so pessimistic about losing the House, you know, just a few months back, these polls show it's narrowing. It's narrowing to probably within the margin of error. This is massive. I think this is a massive strategic error on their part, and I don't think we should interrupt them in doing it. The other angle, which I'll throw to you on, is, you know, within this narrative of gun confiscation, we got the New York Times op-ed today. Never do they talk about the consequences of the final solution of enacting gun confiscation. Roaming, we got 70 million American gun owners who own around 300 million guns. What might the consequences be if just 1% of those gun owners resist giving up their weapons? That's never part of the conversation, is it?
Well, I think exactly. And you always hear these protesters who are so passionate about, you know, we'll take it from your cold dead hands, fine. And we've actually seen people with those sorts of signs at the March for Our Lives rally. I don't know how they think they're going to do that, right? I mean, you have this group of people who are by nature ideologically opposed to gun ownership, trying to say that they're coming after the gun owners. With what? With super citizen voting power? That's just not going to work. I mean, and when you have, I think, as many people as you do in the United States who are so fiercely protective of their right to self-defense, and you have these people saying these things, you know, like ban all guns, repeal the Second Amendment, we need to try mandatory confiscation procedures, I think that's just going to scare a lot of people, and it's going to make gun sales go up. And I think we are seeing Republicans being galvanized around this issue. And it's too bad, because I think at the end of the day, they've really politicized this tragedy, this Parkland shooting tragedy, which I think has really highlighted a lot of faults in law enforcement, right? I mean, we have these sheriff's office that ignored different calls, did nothing when they knew this person was a threat. We have the FBI who is ignoring tips, several tips about a possible shooter. They do nothing. There are actual real policy problems that have been highlighted in this terrible shooting. And instead of focusing on those and the solutions that may actually be able to prevent things like this happening in the future, they've turned the entire NRA into this boogeyman, which is an unrelated topic. It's not going to help this, not going to help prevent things like this in the future. And I think it's just an obfuscation of the actual problems.
Well, exactly. And I mean, David Hogg probably already is the gun salesman of the year. As he said, you know, the anecdotal evidence, AR-15s flying off the shelves, the Google searches right after the March for Life were buy AR-15, that spiked. NRA membership, that spiked. So it is a rallying point for Republicans, which may not have existed before this whole narrative began last month after the Parkland shooting. But switching gears, you made a video about fat shaming, which is one of my favorite topics, because, you know, this whole fat pride movement really gets to the core of how personal responsibility in our culture is being completely eviscerated. There was a comedian, there was a rotund comedian by the name of Sophie Hagen, who got angry at a cancer charity for pointing out that obesity is the second biggest cause of cancer. Just explain what happened with that.
Right. So Sophie Hagen, whose Twitter account is just a treasure trove of lulz, she had a real issue with this cancer research charity who does nothing except try to raise awareness for public health concerns, just trying to let people know that, hey, obesity, I think it's the second largest contributor of preventable cancers after smoking, right? This is a serious public health concern, and especially if you're living in somewhere like the UK or Canada, this is actually an issue that taxpayers need to be aware of, because guess what? When these people have these health-related issues, we're all paying for it, right? I mean, it's everybody's burden at that point. And for some reason, for this activist, she took that as a personal slight against fat people. I think she actually tried to insinuate that the Cancer Research Society trying to raise awareness about obesity-related cancers is more damaging than the actual obesity-related cancers.
Oh no, I've got the quote here. This is what she said. Society viewing fatness as a negative thing kills more people than obesity-related diseases. That's literally what she tweeted. Okay, it doesn't. So 2 billion people worldwide suffer health problems from just being overweight, not even obesity. You've got 4 million people a year dying due to illnesses related to being overweight. It's doubled. Obesity has doubled since 1980. Obviously, that's complete BS. You know, how helpful is it to women, given that this is now basically a feminist movement, to encourage them to follow a lifestyle that literally kills them?
It's not helpful at all. And I'm really having a hard time understanding why this has become a feminist issue, why this is something that social justice has taken arms about. And I think it all stems from the fact that these women are insecure about themselves, right? And they want to feel beautiful. And part of the authoritarian feminist, I guess, marching style is to take your feelings and mandate them onto other people, right? So now you have to say that fatness is beautiful. You can't tell us that it's unhealthy because we want to feel good about ourselves, and all of those facts. It's just it's uncomfortable to hear. I think that's the only reason why this is being talked about.
Okay, we're heading into a break. We will be back with Roaming Millennial on the other side. This is the Alex Jones Show Live. Don't go away. We'll be back. We are back, and we are joined by Roaming Millennial. You can find her on YouTube by simply searching for Roaming Millennial. She's got a big YouTube channel. She's also a host with CRTV. Roaming, obviously your demographic on YouTube is, I presume, quite young. Mine is concentrated in the age range between 18 and 35. Now, you contrast that with Fox News, whose average medium time, prime time viewer is 68 years old. They're literally dying out. Not to rag on the elderly, but their audience is literally dying out. But, I've never been invited, ever, to appear on any Fox News show, any Fox Business show or whatever. The left, as we talked about earlier, recruits people through exploiting tragedies, especially young people, with this whole March for Life thing. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's way overdue that establishment conservatives, specifically media outlets, need to reach out and energize their political brand by attracting a younger audience? Because it's just not happening right now.
Absolutely. And I think there's been a real problem with the conservative movement for the past 30, 40 years in that they have the worst branding. They have terrible outreach, right? And I think the reason why the left is so popular among young people right now in mainstream culture is not because their ideas are better. It's not because their policies bring more improvements to people's lives. It's because they're flashier, right? They're more attractive. They're more charismatic looking. They seem more compassionate. All these good things that young people want to see. The left is great at packaging their ideas like that. And I think that's what conservatives need to get a whole lot better at. And when I look at places like Fox News, I enjoy watching Fox News, but I do wish that they had more of an effort to reach younger viewers, right? I mean, we have entire networks that were originally dedicated to youth entertainment, like MTV. Now, essentially, they've become these giant propaganda mills, right? And I disagree with that, but at the same time, it's dang effective. And we just don't see conservatives putting that amount of effort into connecting to young people, which is too bad.
And yeah, I mean, you have it to a certain extent on YouTube, which is why I joked to the New York Times last year, YouTube is a right-wing safe space. Obviously, they've still got things like the Young Turks, they've got the comedy shows, but in terms of individual personalities, the right, or you could call it the centrist crowd, really do dominate on YouTube to a great extent. And that's why they're so paranoid about YouTube from my perspective. But again, in terms of that establishment Fox News style brand, there's no outreach effort, which is the way I see it, which is going to cost them given how the demographics are going. But I want to switch gears. We've got about 7 minutes left. Have you got something to add to that?
Well, what I would like to see going forward is just to see a greater, I guess, partnership between these establishment Republican or establishment conservative outlets and the new younger generation of conservative commentators and activists, right? Because I think at the end of the day, we may be ideologically aligned, but our demographics are very different, and we need to sort of consolidate people together into kind of pursuing things that are universally conservative, right? That's how we get measures actually changed and policies actually implemented, people actually elected, is that we all need to kind of get on the same page in terms of like what politicians we want to see, what kind of policies conservatives want to focus on. And I think there needs to be, I guess, the sort of coalescence among conservatives like that.
Exactly, and this is where the energy is. There's no energy in National Review Online anymore. It's a dead duck. I mean, they need to get over it and move on. It's quite ridiculous, that the whole CPAC crowd and all that, they get so triggered by anyone who complains about a potential speaker or a potential guest. They cancel them imminently. I mean, they're so paranoid. They're so precious. They need to get over themselves. Let's move on, though. You made a video about the alt-right. In fact, there's a meme, which I posted today, which you featured in your alt-right video, which shows the alt-right and social justice warriors and how their beliefs are basically the same, or at least a mirror image of each other, when it comes to race, segregation, views on society. And I've made this point many times. I'll flash that meme up when this goes up on YouTube. The alt-right and the far left, they need each other. The mainstream media needs the alt-right because they use it as a bogeyman to smear ordinary conservatives. And, you look at the alt-right's presence on YouTube in physical real life, there are more cameras at a Richard Spencer event than actual attendees. Their YouTube presence is pathetic in comparison to people like you and more centrist libertarian types. It's not even there. It's barely there. It's pathetic. I make videos attacking the alt-right. The alt-right hates me. They hate you, obviously, because a lot of them are virulent racists. You had the right-wing watch attack on you. Even though they attack you, they hate you, you attack them, still it was, white supremacy figured out how to become YouTube famous. So
right, nice picture of me there.
With this media environment where we can bash the alt-right all day, I can literally put it in my profile, anti-alt-right. They hate me, I attack them, and yet still we're both alt-right. Isn't that an interesting alliance between the far left and the mainstream media when it comes to the alt-right?
Absolutely. Like you said, they do need each other. They feed off of each other. And I think when it comes to the mainstream media's understanding of the alt-right, they don't actually know what the alt-right is. They just kind of see the alt-right as any racist boogeyman, right? So it doesn't matter that you and I speak out against the alt-right, are very ideologically different than the alt-right because we're not a fan of social justice or their own form of identity, race-based politics. We're there for alt-right. And it's funny because I think if they actually understood what the alt-right believes, when it comes to their racial identitarianism and racial tribalism, they would actually see that, oh, hang on a second, they're exactly like Black Lives Matter, but for white people. And I think that might be sort of an interesting little bit of cognitive dissonance for them if the time ever did come. But you're right, these two groups, if they weren't around making waves at each other, they eventually would disappear because they'd have nothing to complain about.
And I mean, that's the point. Whenever I get called alt-right in the media, it's like, yeah, you don't know what the alt-right is, do you? It's not anyone who disagrees with you, okay? It's a very specific subsection of people whose views are completely abhorrent, and you know where to find them on certain websites, which is the complete opposite of everyone else. But they lump us in its useful tool to smear, more mainstream conservatives with, which is why they do it, which is why the mainstream loves the alt-right, and the alt-right loves the mainstream because they wouldn't otherwise have an audience. But we got a few minutes left with roaming millennial. Social media censorship. Obviously, we've seen this Facebook algorithm change broadly affecting conservatives more than left-wing websites. We've seen YouTube targeting political content. Has this impacted you at all in terms of your YouTube output?
Well, I mean, definitely I've had issues with demonetization. I've even had I've had to appeal them, and I have gotten some approved, but I think that's been going on for a long time. But regarding this Facebook thing, I actually just got off a call with one of the people at CRTV saying that we're going to need to, I guess, reevaluate how we do things, because the sad fact of the matter is Facebook is targeting, like, you any call to action where you might want to direct someone to a third-party site or article where there's more conservative content, they're actually cracking down on that, and they're not favoring that anymore. And so it is hard, and we're going to need to adapt. And I always struggle with, is it just worth leaving it? Because, I mean, I'm personally not on Facebook. My show has a Facebook page, but I'm not on Facebook. I am on YouTube, and they have their own leftist policies. And it's hard because on the one hand, I don't want to support these companies. I don't agree with what they're doing. But on the other, this is where the eyes are, right? This is where the viewership is. So, I mean, right now, I kind of see these companies as this necessary evil if I want to actually connect with people and be able to have this discussion on a large platform. But long term, I'm hoping that alternatives arise where we were able to just leave these guys behind.
Well, I mean, my attitude is just ride it until the wheels fall off. And, you know, I think they are starting to fall off. You know, I got a Facebook video, for example. I was getting more views on those videos than the ones on YouTube. As of this algorithm change, that's been slightly amended. So we'll see how that goes. But that is the main threat in terms of censorship from my perspective. It's not outright bans, it's them tweaking the algorithm in the background. So suddenly your audience dwindles away and you can't really prove that they've done anything. I think that's the main threat going forward. But in the final minute, roaming millennial. Yeah, you want to add to that? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's essentially a shadow ban, right? So you have all these conservative channels who maybe are thinking, is my audience just not interested in what? But actually, they're not even being notified of your videos. They're not showing up on your feeds. It's actually a pretty smart way of doing things. You can ban people without actually having to ban them, and they don't know.
Exactly. Now we got about a minute left. Tell people where they can find you on Twitter and YouTube and your plans going forward.
Sure. So you can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/roaming millennial. You can also find me on Twitter at roaming mill. I pretty much live on Twitter, so definitely check me out there to stay updated with what I'm doing. And I'm on CRTV at crtv.com/roaming. We got 3 episodes of Uncensored a week. And going forward, I will be speaking in Arizona on the 21st of April. So if you're in the area, be sure to come say hi.
Okay, there goes Roaming Millennial. Be sure to check her out. She's got a fabulous YouTube channel. Check it out today. Roaming, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
There she goes. And we have about 45 seconds left. So I'm going to tell you about this top story up on Infowars.com. Germany. ISIS beheading videos spreading like wildfire amongst migrants in schools. This is the president of Germany's Teachers Association warning about ISIS propaganda, warning about attacks on female teachers, warning about attacks on Jewish students in these migrant-dominated schools. The situation he thinks is getting out of control. We're going to have another huge story about that tomorrow. But again, massive problems with the integration or non-integration of migrants in Germany spreading throughout Europe. That's going to wrap it up for this show, but War Room is coming up. Don't go away. We'll be back.
InfoWars Life is bringing you a breakthrough in modern medicine. Introducing Pollen Block. We have found an extraordinary new, natural way to alleviate seasonal distress symptoms, including promoting clear nasal and sinus passageways, eye comfort, and respiratory function. In the 1960s, researchers in France noticed that people who ate certain quail eggs experienced less seasonal immune and inflammatory responses. They began studying this effect in published trials, and decades later, we now have the fruit of this research, a fast-acting, chewable tablet that helps alleviate seasonal distress symptoms. Pollen Block is natural and effective. It is not an antihistamine. In fact, current research has found that it actually acts by blocking the activity of tryptase, which is an enzyme that amplifies immune and inflammatory responses in the body. Go outside and enjoy the air you breathe. Head to InfoWarsLife.com and grab a pack of our Pollen Block chewable tablets.